Welcome back from your trip, Matt.
Oh, thank you. It was an amazing trip.
It is June 24th when we're talking, and your return date was June 21st. So you've had a few days to recover, and it went well?
Oh, it was everything and more than I could certainly hope for.
Okay. There's a couple things that happened during your trip that I'm curious to see how it played in,
Now,
including the weather. So let's see how it went. Okay. Saturday, June 13th, you told us you were flying from Michigan.
yeah, so we live in kind of the middle of the state, about an hour and a half from the airport, and we had some high school open houses to hit in the morning and then head out of town. We got about 20 minutes from home and realized that my wife did not have her ID. So we took a little detour, went back home. We had left in plenty of time, but it just gave us a little bit of anxiety as we approached the airport. So
Listen, that's the reason you leave early is you build in issues.
yep. So instead of parking off property, we're parking at the connected garage, which made it super convenient. It just cost a little bit more. So, but yeah, so every flights were on time, everything there. Departed Detroit about 6:35, landed at MCO in about 9:15 or so. We had used a ground transportation company. They had texted even as we're landing. We grabbed our bags and they were kind of right out that door, and so super convenient. Really glad we opted to go that route. When you're dealing with needing car seats and a family of six and all that luggage, just doing, I mean, normally if it's me, happy to do a ride share or something like that, but going this route for a larger family is certainly the way to go.
And people will want to know what car service.
Yeah, we used Away We Go,
Okay.
and so the one thing I really liked about that is they also delivered our stroller. So I didn't have to spend time on any of the park days meeting a stroller delivery or anything like that. So once they drop us off, we had our stroller ready to go, and that was super convenient as well.
Okay. And this night was at the SpringHill Suites.
Yeah, that's correct. It was not our favorite, but I mean, we were really there for a total of less than 12 hours, right? And
Just
so
to sleep.
just to sleep, and then pick up early the next morning.
Okay, so let's talk about the next morning, which was Sunday, June 14th, and you were moving on site.
Yeah, so the same company, Away We Go, they picked us up at 8:15 to transport us to Beach Club. We pulled on property. We go through the gate at 8:32. And the second we pulled through that gate, I got a text saying, your room's not ready yet, right? So, I'd heard the previous podcast and I'm like, okay, I don't quite get it, but now I totally understand, right? So it had to be geofence, right? There was no expectation that my room would be ready at 8:32, but the second we pulled through, there was that text. So, but that was fine. We were just there to drop our bags off and move on to the rest of our day. So.
And the first thing on your list was a character meal.
Yeah, so we had a 1900 Park Fare reservation at 10:20. So, like I said, we dropped off our bags. We kind of hit the little lobby gift shop there at the beach club. I had to make a work call, and fortunately, that was the only day I was bothered by work for the entire trip. So we decided when we talked in the pre-show, weren't sure which route we were going to go, but we decided to bust the Magic Kingdom and then take the monorail over. So we got on the bus about 9:15, off at 9:28, had to go through security, to which I hadn't prepped for that, and so I got pulled. Not a big deal. I wasn't rope dropping, not in a rush. I did better the rest of the trip, but we were on by 9:42 on the monorail over to the Grand Floridian. Had to stop by the gift shop over there to pick up our autograph books. Those would be important for the rest of the trip. And about 10:12, checked in for our 10:20 reservation, and we're seated about 10 minutes later.
Okay, not bad.
Not bad.
All right on time.
Yep.
So, what'd you think of this meal?
You know what? This was a great first meal. One, very good character interactions. The kids loved the juice, the bacon, the gummy bears, and maybe a Mickey waffle or a pancake. So
That combination is so funny to me. Juice, bacon, gummy bears, pancakes.
yeah, and I was like, wait, they have a little tray with little cups of gummy bears, but I mean, we certainly consumed them, right? But then there was also some better food for mom and dad as well, right? So beef pudding, or excuse me, bread pudding with the cream anglaise, beef hash were some of my favorite things. It's nice to have a morning cocktail. I had the spicy Paloma. My wife had the Bloody Mary, a little bit of spice, right? Like I like spice, but it's not like over the top. So no one should be scared off, but I thought it brought some flavor to it. Really good character interactions. Mirabelle, Tiana, Cinderella, Aladdin, right? And so we're seated at 10:22, 10:25. And within the first hour and 5 minutes, we'd had all 4 characters, and they were kind of spaced out. So we weren't done with the meal and waiting half an hour for that last character, which I have heard can sometimes be an issue. But no, it was a great first kind of Disney experience. Grand Flow's amazing, right? It's not necessarily my vibe as to where I would stay, but in terms of feeling like, oh yeah, we're at a special trip, that was certainly a great first meal.
Okay. And then your plan was to head to Blizzard Beach from there?
Yeah. So we stuck with that on the way out. I was like, I need to stop by the ATM to grab some cash just to have for tipping bell services or anything like that, right? And so there's one in the lobby there. Put in my card, everything worked except for the part where it gives the money back, right? And so I'm like, My wife's like, how much did you ask for? I said, well, $200. She goes, well, you're going to need to talk to somebody. And I go up to the front desk, and the woman who's used to checking people in was not the ATM expert. And I realized it's not their problem, but I need them to be aware of it, to get the bank involved. And she went and talked to the manager, and then she came back to me and said, hey, apparently the bank was aware of it. They hadn't had a chance to put a sign up. So I went back over to take some photos just of any identifying marks on the ATM. And at that point, then the manager came over, and he was very apologetic, helpful, and quite frankly, I didn't forget about it, but I'm like, I don't have time to deal with this now, so we'll deal with it later. By the end of the trip, it had already been refunded without me having to actually make any calls. So I think the Grand Flow on their end was doing their job to make sure.
But you still needed your cash.
Actually, we do. Venmo can do a lot of good things. So I shouldn't have. I mean, that's the reason I barely have cash in my day-to-day life, right? I don't know why I thought Disney would need cash, but yeah, so we never hit another ATM as it was. So it's funny because the Beach Club ATM where I was originally going to go, that one had a sign that they were down. So I don't know if it was a system issue or what it was, but not a good way to try and hit the ATM. But once we got through all that, a little frazzled, but not too bad, right? We're just going to keep on going on. So we took the bus, like a 12-minute wait. So nothing bad there. Arrived at Animal Kingdom. The one to transfer over to Blizzard Beach was there right away. So that was a fairly smooth process. So we were probably at Blizzard Beach by 12:45 or so. So pretty good. Went to Tykes Peak. Kids loved Steamboat Springs, being able to put the whole family, or at least 5 of us. Teenager decided that it was more important to get the UV. And so she was just laying out, but mom, dad, the 3 little kids, we had the family tube, which they really enjoyed. The lazy river, a very calm wave pool as opposed to what I hear is true at Typhoon Springs, right? But then what they really loved was the ski patrol training camp and just some of the small to medium slides, and there's a zip line that they just had a blast. And we were there till 6:30, and the boys especially are going down a slide, barely look awake getting out of the pool, and then hop back up to the top and then slide back down. They just had a blast. So
Wearing themselves out.
Wearing themselves out. It was certainly a theme for the whole week. So we left about 7. I did not want to transfer, so that was the first of what became a handful of minivans for the entire week. And I mean, everyone says it, right? You've got TV, and once again, not having to deal with car seats or anything, right? Like just a super smooth process. For the money we were paying for the entire trip, paying a little bit more for convenience was certainly well worth it.
Yes. And yeah, you didn't have to do the connection. Your family of 6 fit just right.
Exactly. So no, it was great.
Okay, so you were heading back, and did you go straight to Beaches and Cream? Did you go to your room?
No, at this point we hadn't checked in yet. So I guess it's probably about 7:30, and our reservation wasn't until 8:30 or so. So we went up to the room, activated the keys, took all the stuff up there, and kind of started unpacking. But I went downstairs a little bit early, about 8:10, 8:15, because I wanted to see if they could combine the two reservations, which they were able to do. We probably had to wait, like, I think it was about 8:45 that we were seated. So 10 minutes after the second one would have been, but there's no guarantee like that we would have. I mean, that wasn't too bad, right? Although people were starting to get a little hungry, tired. One of the twins fell asleep and just slept in the booth the entire time and didn't eat anything. But it was a trip of sleeping in weird places wherever they were, but we weren't going to slow down or stop just for a little nap. So, but no, it was an enjoyable experience. I thought the food was good. My daughter thought the grilled cheese might be better than Panera. And this is the oldest daughter, Elizabeth. And to her, that's like the highest level of praise that one can give a grilled cheese sandwich. Is better than Panera. So the fudge brownie mudslide sundae was a hit with the 8-year-old. The adult root beer floats were a great treat for mom and dad, and it was kind of a nice way to end the first day there.
Okay. And a short commute back to your room. Can you talk a little bit about your room?
Yeah. For us, with 6 people, this was kind of the perfect room. So it's I guess they call it the deluxe room. It had the 2 queen beds or double beds. I think they're queens, but I'm not sure. And then it had a full double pull-out couch that we could keep pulled out and still have plenty of space to move around. We've gone on other trips where we tried to fit 6 in different hotel rooms, and maybe there's like a chair that pulls out or something like that. I asked Elizabeth, and one of the twins slept on that couch, and Elizabeth said it was very comfortable. So for us, that was very good. It allowed us not to pay even more for like a multi-bedroom villa or something. Also knowing the fact that our kids always find a way to end up in our bedroom, even at home. I didn't want to pay for 2 bedrooms when everyone was going to kind of be, I mean, it would have given Elizabeth a room of her own and everyone else would have been with mom and dad in a king size bed. So no, we weren't going to do that. So, but we were up on the 4th floor. We kind of had a little windy route to get there once you got off the elevator, but it was great. I mean, we almost never heard anyone else in the hallways. We had 2 small balconies, but we overlooked one of the back entryways. And then, so we had small balconies on 2 sides, and the other one looked down onto Stormalong Bay, which the kids loved going out there and just looking at people, or going to the one that looked over the courtyard entrance and not yelling, but trying to talk to people from 4 stories up about, hi, we're at Disney. Like, yep, so are they. But they were very excited. So, but I would say the bathroom. So the had 2 sinks, and that area was pretty large. But then the room with the toilet and the shower was really tight, and that area looked a little bit dated as well. So that was probably the downside of that room for us. But otherwise, like, we would stay there again, absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm glad you like that.
Yeah.
So the next day was Monday, June 15th, and it was your first park day, and it was Epcot, right?
It was Epcot. The alarms were at 6. We were out the back door by 7:05. Security line at 7:15 to go in through International Gateway. Was really happy with getting the family out the door. There were probably 20 people ahead of us in line, but I was the second stroller in the stroller line, so we were ready to go, and I'd pulled out all the electronics or anything that could possibly set it off. It's all showing there in the stroller, so that we were able to go through pretty quickly. So felt like that was going great, and then I realized, but they're going to stop you a couple different times, and those are more opportunities to lose your space in line. And so I guess it was 7:34 they opened security. It was probably 7:55 before they let us across the bridge, and we hustled over to Remy's. We had a pretty good space. We were kind of made it all the way through most of the queue. We were still outside, but up against the wall, so not too far back there. Line didn't really start moving until about 8:29, and we were off the ride by 8:42. The kids, I really liked the ride. I thought it was fun. The Kids were a little bit scared at that one part where it's either the chef or the waiter tries to grab and the ride vehicle kind of scoots back. So they were talking a little bit how that was scary. Sometimes my children can be a little bit dramatic, but I think overall it was an enjoyable, it was a great first ride. Right? It had been a while. I love roller coasters, all that stuff. It's been a while since I've been to a theme park. So like this is a new type of ride for me.
Well, your plan was to then head to Frozen Ever After, and that feels a little more intense than Remy's. If you count the backwards part of it.
I forgot the backwards part of it, to be honest with you. That seems like a lot of rides ago, but no. So we immediately got off Remy's and we headed there. And this is like right away. I'm very thankful that we have this double stroller because kids get in, dad's pushing you, right? And so there are people walking, and I don't deal well with slow pace and walking. And so even with this double stroller, I'm like weaving through traffic, and I feel like we're making good time. Belle and Aurora were kind of out and about in France, checking their gardens or whatever. And I'm like, we don't have time for that. We'll see them later, right? Come on, we're focused, keep going. But we went straight to Frozen Ever After. We were there by 8:55. We got on at 9:15. So that was, an enjoyable trip. I thought that would be something, so I purposely didn't get a lightning lane for that and thought, okay, maybe we'll get a second one. But there wasn't, none of the kids were really like, oh, let's do it again. But I think they thought it was fine, right? But they're not like huge Frozen fans where they had to do it again. So it was like, okay, what's next? So, and next was, we got a line for Anna and Elsa. At 9:25, it said 60-minute standby. This was our longest line of the whole trip.
Okay.
It ended up being over an hour.
That one's a tough one. They used to have fast passes, lightning lanes for characters, and this is one of the reasons I wish they'd bring it back.
Yeah, because I throughout the whole trip, I felt like I was spending more time in character lines than I was in ride lines. Obviously, because we had the lightning lanes available for the rides. But this one, like I said, it was going to be a 60-minute standby. It was probably closer to 65, 70 before we actually got into the character room. But like the last third of the queue seemed to go like that. So I don't know if something was happening back there, but it felt like long periods of time where we weren't moving or barely moving. And then all of a sudden that kind of those last two hallways took almost no time at all. But Elizabeth thought that the problem was Anna just kept on being weird and asking weird questions, and we just needed to hurry up and get on with life. But fortunately, my wife, when we first got in line, had gone over when she got some school bread, some lefse, some Norwegian kringla. So she had a whole bunch of snacks, right? So at least we were trying to keep people fed, and at least it wasn't in the heat. So it could have been worse.
I'm happy to remind myself that this is your first time playing the trip. Yeah. Because you're doing a good job.
Oh, thank you. I had a lot of help from you and a lot of research. So we finished that, and then we headed over to Figment. And so this was going to be our first lightning lane. Tapped in at 10:49. It said 30-minute standby, and we were on in 5 minutes, right? And so my kids were like, "Oh, we get to go past this line? That's pretty good, right?" So they're excited. I didn't know anything about Figment prior to about 8-10 months ago, right? So like I had no idea. And then you hear people are like, "Oh, it's kind of lame," or whatever. I didn't think it was that bad, right? And it ended up being one of my daughter's favorites, to where later in the trip, when she got to choose a character, that was who she wanted. And she even wanted to do the ride later during extended evening hours, which we found out it is not offered during extended evening hours. So
you might have been the only one on it if it was.
I think that's kind of what I told her. So, but otherwise, no, I thought that was pretty good. So right away, as we're standing in line, I'm like, okay, what can I book now, right? And so we booked Nemo for a little bit later in the morning. But yeah, like I said, I had low expectations for that ride, but I liked it.
Okay, then what was after that?
So then As we talked about in the pre-show, one of my highlights as an adult, I got the chance to go eat at a place called Grab and Goof, but we did the chicken goof ups, or otherwise known as Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets, it seemed to me, an order of mac and cheese and the worm cake. But once again, keep people fed, try and cool them down with a Diet Coke or a slushie or something like that. So actually, I thought that this food was pretty good. We had kind of also said, oh, maybe we'll go into the goofy dance party or whatever they call it. We ended up not doing that. We thought we might come back to it later. It just never worked out. But I thought that it was all snack stuff, but it served as a nice early lunch for the family. So from there, we went over to Nemo. It was a 45-minute standby. We entered the lightning lane at about 11:51. There was a wait, and in fact, it had us like out the door. But then once we got inside, it moved fairly quickly, right? Although as we're waiting outside, one of the kids turned to me and said, "I thought this was the lightning lane," and I said, "Okay, well, or temper your expectations, right?" So, but we were on at 12:01. I thought it was okay. I think the kids thought it was fine. They liked it. Nothing stood out for them. But we got off. We grabbed right away. I'm like, we're right here. We grabbed the lightning lane for Turtle Talk that would start in about 2 minutes. So they checked out the aquarium, took some pictures with Bruce Shark that's in the one little room, and like he's eating them and getting in their mouth. So they did that, and we walked into Turtle Talk, and I thought that's a nice little show. That was enjoyable. Now, our kids were a little bit reluctant to go sit up by themselves. So we'd kind of been at the back of the pack because of the timing of stuff. So they ended up sitting with us, and so they weren't anywhere near the front. But other than that, I thought it was a very cute show. Glad we did it. Not sure it'd be an every time thing, but enjoyed it. And so then we're kind of planning the rest of the day. I'm like, okay, we need to go all the way back down to France to meet Aurora. And at this point, I realized it was a hike, right? And so I'm pushing that stroller. It seemed like a lot of it was downhill, so that was good, right? But swerving, especially once you get to UK and you got to go up that hill and everything. But so it's the middle of the day. It's 12:45 or whatever, and I'm just sweating, and two boys are maybe oblivious to everything going on. Pretty good. But we did get there in time to meet Aurora. Eventually, the rest of the family caught up to me.
You left him.
Oh, I left him in the dust, right? I'm like, I'm going to go get the place in line. But found out one of the reasons my wife was a little bit delayed. She ran into she's a third grade teacher here, and she ran into a student's dad. It was like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? So she likes to talk. She finds people to talk to. We ended up meeting up with her student then later in the night, but kind of a random meeting. But we were able to meet Aurora. I think one of the boys was asleep during the interaction, but we made sure all 3 autographed books were signed. And then it was time to treat ourselves to some crepes and to some ice cream brioche pockets. I'm not even going to try to pronounce what is it? Croque glace?
Yeah. Croque de glace and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah. My daughter's taken 1 or 2 years of high school French, and so she was trying to tell me what it was. But
it's tough. When I started a podcast, I realized how little I knew how to pronounce some of these things.
It was okay. It got a little messy, right? Because it's really hot. So that ice cream was melting pretty fast, but it was still a nice little way to cool down and get out of that heat there. So from there, we moved on to Morocco. Sloan and I went to go meet Jasmine. The boys are now, at this point, I think, both asleep in the stroller, and Elizabeth decided that she wanted a henna tattoo there in Morocco. So we kind of all split up, but we were all kind of in the same area. After that, my wife and Elizabeth and the boys, they made their way to Japan to try the violet sake, which she said was delicious. That recommendation came from an emergency room nurse at the pediatric hospital about a week earlier when Sloan had just a little bit of an infection and had to get, but The group nurses there were great. They gave her a whole front and back sheet of paper, hand wrote all these notes. And so my wife is like, oh, we should do this. We should. I said, yep, I know. She goes, how do you know? I go, because I've been planning. I've been prepping. So from there, we hoofed it back around to Guardians, 60-minute standby. We tapped in about 2:33. We were on the ride at 3.
And is this everyone?
Everybody.
I can't wait to hear how.
This is everybody. So, so at first we're predicting all which song do you think is going to happen? Which one do you want? Erin predicted September, said she was also, that's the one she wanted. She was manifesting it. Elizabeth wanted Everybody Wants to Rule the World, but predicted Conga. I also wanted September, but predicted Disco Inferno, and it was Disco Inferno. So, but now for me, I can see why everyone loves this one the best. My favorite, just so smooth, right? Thrilling, yet not, you don't need a chiropractor afterwards. So that was for everyone. I think for the 3, maybe the 4 oldest, that was certainly the favorite. The boys, I don't think they struggled with the ride. They did not like the big mean guy in the pre-show, right? Now they have not watched Guardians. We just ran out of time in our trip prep movie nights to get around to watching it. So they weren't aware of any of these characters. But that when I got off the ride, they talked more about the big mean guy in the pre-show than they did about the ride itself. So
See, this is why when we do the ranking, we don't put Guardians as the most intense because your 5-year-olds loved it.
no, they were great with it. And it was, I'm not sure if it's 40 or 42 inches, but Brooks is the shortest and he's 43 and a half. So he was able to ride it. So that was definitely made things a lot easier. My wife normally will have motion sickness and no one had any issues on that ride. Now they all had their Dramamine and everything in the morning, but no issues with Guardian. So
That's amazing.
yeah. So from there, so even though they said they didn't like it, they were in a good mood, right? It's not like we were consoling. There was no meltdowns. They'd had their stroller naps. We're good to go. So we go over to Soarin', tap in at 3:19. It's a 40-minute standby. We're on the ride at 3:41. At this point, I grabbed Spaceship Earth for later in the evening. I thought Soarin' was good, but I don't have the previous version to compare it to or anything. So I enjoyed it. I think the kids enjoyed it. It's unique compared to some of the other rides. I did think a couple of the hallways were just really, really long waits. And then you're looking at nothing. And that was a little bit, once again, people are starting to get like, hey, I thought we were doing lightning lanes. I'm like, we passed all those people back there, right? So the plan was to kind of take a midday break. As we're heading out of the park, I knew we'd be going by the Disney Visa photo spot. So I said, let's just go in here. I mean, from the outside, there looked like there was nobody in there, right? And you open the door and then there's a line and kind of hemming and hawing. It's, how long is this line going to be? 20 minutes. We decided to do it. And while we were in line, we mobile ordered Regal Eagle Steakhouse, whatever.
Regal Eagle, I don't know,
Barbecue, whatever. So we ordered that. But Sloan, while we're in line, said, I'm really hoping it's Pluto and Minnie, because they wouldn't tell us. They just said 2 surprise characters. She goes, I hope it's Pluto and Minnie. As it turned out, it was Pluto and Minnie.
Wow.
So everybody was happy. Had a good character interaction there. Then most of the family left the park. Elizabeth and I went to go pick up all the barbecue, and we actually took it back to Beach Club and ate it in the room. Now, I'm walking out with 6 to-go containers, and she's got a couple of drinks and all the condiments and everything. But all in all, I think that was a really good plan. It was certainly the advantage of being at Beach Club on an Epcot day, right? To be able to do that. So we're back eating at the room by 5 o'clock. About 6:45, we decided to head back into the park. So we really didn't do any napping or anything like that. So we got in about 6:55, took some quick photos in front of Spaceship Earth, and headed to Test Track. Standby said 120 minutes, but there was no one in the queue when you first walk in. So I don't know if they were doing that to scare people away. Once you got further into ride, there were a bunch of people in the queue, but I don't know if they were. I don't know why. It just seemed like if it's 120 minutes and you've got all this room still in the standby queue, how long do you anticipate that standby queue to go? But
Yeah. At 120 minutes, I would have expected it to be full.
yes, yeah, and it was not. It was not. But so we tapped in about 7:14 on at 7:30. The kids loved this one. This one was probably one of their favorite of the entire trip. Grant, one of the twins, is like said, "I want to go on more fun rides like that one." And so I'm like, okay, all right, maybe we will, right? And kind of the opposite during this, as soon as we tapped in there, I'd grabbed Living with the Land. But at this point, our spaceship Earth, we were in that window, but it was down for some reason. So that converted to some anytime passes. And I was like, oh, great, we'll be able to go on Test Track. Didn't realize, nope, you get the same tier as whatever that one that was down, right? And so it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll do Soarin' or something like that. But at this point, we headed to Mexico. Most of us got in line for a Grand Fiesta tour. My wife went over to La Cava. This is where she met her student and her family. They each had a couple of, my wife bought a couple of margaritas, one for her and one for one of the parents. And then we got off the ride, and then they took a couple photos, and then we were kind of on with the rest of our night. We headed over to Living with the Land, pretty much a walk on there. At this point, so we get on that ride at 8:30, and this is where it's the one thing I wish I would have done different, or one of the things I wish I would have done different. I was like, we have this anytime pass. I want to use it now before extended evening hours starts. I think Soarin', people would like going on that again. Let's use it. And then once we get off, we'll hustle back over to Test Track. We got off Soarin'. It was about, that was the plan we did. We tapped in about 8:50. We were in the pre-show at 9:06. We were off at 9:17. I look at the app, and it's saying the wait for Test Track is 50 minutes. I said, okay, that's probably on the high end of what we could do, but they loved it. Let's go try it. By the time we made it across the park, it was 75. And we said, you can't do it. Can't do it. It's just it's not worth it. So at that point, Elizabeth and Brooks went back to the room. So my wife, myself, Sloan, and Grant, we all were like, okay, let's go ride Figment. This one we realized Figment was not an option. So then it was like, okay, now spirits are kind of low, right? Like, wow, I wanted to take advantage of these extended evening hours, and it's not going great, right? So at that point, nothing turns around some feelings like a Mickey pretzel and maybe some Dole Whip and a alcoholic smoothie. So everyone had a little bit of a snack. We decided to go up to Moana, which was really cute, especially at night, really good photos, and then we headed home. So didn't exactly take advantage of extended evening hours, but we also didn't run ourselves into the ground and make bad decisions. So wish I would have done some things differently, but I'm proud of our decision making.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is your first trip, so that's not so bad. You did 80% of Epcot, I feel like, in this one day.
Yeah, and we did grab some maple popcorn on the way home. So, not a total loss. So we were back in the room, and everyone was asleep by, say, 11:15. So I had a pretty successful day. Like I said, I had no idea that Epcot was that spread out. I'm also thinking, oh my God, if everything is like this one, this is going to be an exhausting trip. But as I would later learn, nope, that's on the extreme end of the amount of steps. So
Exactly.
But the step count for that day was 25,500.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. And the credit for the whole trip for all this goes to Sloan, my little 8-year-old who doesn't have a stroller. The boys are riding along for most of it, but she kept motoring, and she didn't have the opportunity to do stroller naps and whatever. So she was certainly a trooper. So
yeah,
but,
she probably had 40,000 steps.
Probably, but she was having the time of her life too. So.
Okay. So Tuesday, June 16th was your planned Hollywood Studios day. I'm curious if you made a rope drop.
We did. We left the room by 7:01. We realized, okay, we're going to mobile order. Elizabeth found out that they had a bacon egg bagel that she liked, And so that would be breakfast for her. And then we would do like just 3 sides of bacon for the kids. And that would get some protein in them, get something in them to get out the door. So we did that. We decided to do the Skyliner. It was probably going to be our only chance to do the Skyliner for the trip. That opened at about 7:20. By the time we got through security over at Hollywood Studios, it was 7:52. They opened the tap styles at 8. We were in Toy Story Land by 8:09, and people were on Slinky Dog riding it by 8:21. So we got on about 8:33 and then quickly made it over to Toy Story Mania, and we're able to do both of those without issue during rope drop. So that was a successful rope drop. And at this point, people are talking to each other, so that's good.
Yeah. So you had some lightning lanes to use, I think.
We did. So before we did that, we kind of ordered some lunchbox tarts from Woody's Lunchbox. I don't know if the kids liked it, but the adults certainly liked it. So the plan was to go to the Frozen show and kind of tap in there, but that was down. So that converted to a lightning lane, anytime lightning lane that we could use for any show, which we ended up using later for Frozen as well. So, but it did allow me to then grab a Tower of Terror for $7.50 at night, and I set up Weight Magic to move that earlier. So that was the first time using Weight Magic during the
So
trip.
you were booking all the new ones, and then if you needed help modifying, you had Weight Magic do that.
So I also had Standby Skipper, but I didn't realize you could go in and pre-set stuff up. So I probably only used Standby Skipper 4 times throughout the day. Actually on Epcot day, I tried to get a Frozen one later in the day, and I should have remembered my research that they don't do the later in the day drops and whatever. So that one never came to anything. Paid off a couple times, but I like having the control, right? It's easier on me to go in, see what's available. Let's pick something. And, but I did use it a couple times when something wasn't available the moment I went in there. So, but I probably actually enjoyed using Weight Magic more than I did Standby Skipper. So at that point, we said, okay, we're going to go over to Star Tours. And I think I mentioned it in the pre-show. Like our family was big Star Wars fans. Even the boys love it, right? And so they're wearing. I think Brooks was in a Mandalorian shirt. Grant's wearing his Imperial Stormtroopers shirt. And so we're getting in line for Stormtroopers. And Elizabeth grabs me and she's like, "Look, Dad!" And it's Darth Vader just coming out for his character meet. So right away we pivot. We go get in line. We didn't have to wait very long for that. This is one of the highlights. I'll remember this forever.
Because he's right near Star Tours now.
Yeah. I mean, he's really like the lines almost kind of overlap almost. So we're right there. Darth comes over and issues them forward, and he's talking, and Grant's got his mouth wide open. He's meeting his hero, right? Which is kind of weird to say, but he's got a Stormtrooper shirt on, and Darth says, "Are you willing to join the dark side?" And Grant's like, yes, I am. And he goes, "Good." And Darth says, "Good. I will call you when you are needed to finish your training." And like at that point, Grant would have been done with the trip, right? Like that, it was hard to top that. So that was amazing. Went on Star Tours. I really liked it. My wife had forgotten to take her Dramamine and motion sickness meds, and so this one did kind of mess her up a little bit, probably all the way through lunch. And at this point, it's 9:15, so a little bit through lunch and even into the afternoon. She just walked off. She took it after it, but it was kind of too late on that one. So,
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think Star Tours gets a bad rap, and my wife says, nope, it deserves everything it gets. So, but that was really cool. That was really cool. So from there, we did a little Star Wars shopping, and I grabbed a Smuggler's Run Lightning Lane for later in the day. So at this point, we headed to the Stitch line for the Disney Visa photo. And so what Darth Vader is to Grant, Stitch is to Sloan. So at this point, Sloan is wearing her Stitch outfit. We got in line at 10:04. They said it would be 30 or 35 minutes. It was really only 20 minutes. So that was great. Like I said, that's Sloan's favorite. So right there, within an hour, 2 of my kids have gotten to meet their favorite characters. So it's really hard to beat. We got right in line for Olaf. That line was real short, probably only about 8 minutes total. So we're able to knock out a couple of things there. So at this point, I'm like, wow, Hollywood Studios, everything's nice and compact, and it doesn't take long to get from one end of the park to the other. So really enjoying that. We took a photo in front of the theater right there for Mickey and Minnie's. And then at that point, the standby line was 35. And I was like, okay, I think that's doable because I want to make sure I get a rock and roller coaster and Tower of Terror. I want to do many of those other things later. So I'm like, we're here. It's doable. Let's just stand in line. That line, I mean, it was 35 minutes, like it said, but that queue's outside and a lot of it's in the sun. So that's kind of hard. So the boys were getting a little cranky, a little tired, a little hot. So we're holding them, which then doesn't help us feel any better. But once we actually got inside and got on the ride, everyone really enjoyed that one as well. So after this, it was time for Sloan to change from her Stitch outfit into her Ray costume.
She had multiple.
Oh yeah, we were prepared, right? So everyone's now wearing their Star Wars attire as we head into Galaxy's Edge for the first time. Stopped for a little. There's a photo pass photographer there, and if you have the Disney Visa card, you get a Darth Vader hologram photo shoot over there, and some other characters involved as well. And so we did that one, and then walked on into Galaxy's Edge. We had a noon reservation for Oga's. I would say that Oga's probably, if it was my wife and I, would have been okay. It was not great for the kids, right? It seemed like there were a lot of people standing there, like a high percentage of people standing. Foreshadowing, we liked Beacon Barrel a ton better, but and maybe it's luck of the draw. But for us, the Oga's experience, maybe it was because we were also worn down and a little bit tired and hungry. And the food there is spicy, right? Like even some of that bread with the cheese, it has the spice on it, right? So the thrill of the bubbling non-alcoholic drinks kind of wears off pretty quickly when the kids can't see over the table they're standing at. So I still enjoyed it, but I think if there had been actual Star Wars characters they knew in there, it would have kept their attention. Instead, there's a droid DJ, but they don't know that guy, right? Maybe if Jabba the Hutt was actually in there, it would kind of keep their attention. But so that's probably one that we would not do again if we have the whole family. If it's just some older kids or adults, I would consider doing that again. But
That's good information because people with kids are often asking about both Oga's and Beacon Barrel.
yeah, and on this one, I mean, you are a little bit rolling the dice. There were people seated right behind us, and they were probably having a much different experience. It just felt like there were more people standing at Oga's than later at Beacon Barrel. But so we left Oga's and walked back out on the Galaxy's Edge. Kylo Ren and the Stormtroopers are moving through, right? So at this point, now our kids are back engaged and everything. At this point, my wife walked up to Droid Depot because the plan was we were going to have the kids, or each one of the boys, were going to build the droid. And when I was 60 days out, I'm looking at the reservations, and like it seemed like there were a ton available. And I'm like, okay, so 60 days out, I'm prepping. And I'm like, if I was in the park today, would I have any problems getting a reservation? The answer was no, right? About 2 weeks out, prepping just to see if it was still the case, all of a sudden there's no reservation in the month of June. Well, it turns out they had a supplier issue, and they were concerned that they weren't even going to be able to have enough for the reservations that they already had on hand. So we hadn't promised anything. We didn't even make the boys aware. Hopefully they don't listen to the podcast later and find out they missed out on the chance to build a droid. But otherwise, it's something that would have been nice to do. It didn't really matter that we didn't get to. So from there, we went to Smuggler's Run, standby wait of 45 minutes. We had like a 12-minute wait. We had no clue what we were doing, but it didn't really matter because with 6 people, you fill up the whole ship. So Elizabeth and I are the pilots, and we're running into stuff. The boys are the gunners, and they're just shooting and pushing buttons. And I don't know, the mom and Sloan are doing whatever the engineers do in the back. But everyone had a good time. I mean, just the feel of walking in there and down those hallways, I thought was really cool for the whole family. So let's see. My wife thought by being an engineer, there was less motion sickness back there as opposed to being up front. So
I think she's right about that.
yeah. So that might have been a tip from the emergency room nurse as well. But yeah, so that was an enjoyable experience for everyone. At that point, I did set up Standby Skipper to grab a rock and roller coaster, and it actually grabbed one within 3 minutes, right? And so what I do like about, and maybe I had it set up wrong again, what I like about Weight Magic is it tells you, I get an email notification or something when it grabs one. For Standby Skipper, all of a sudden I just look in my lightning lanes and it's like, oh, you've got this, but I didn't get a notification.
It does a push notification in the Standby Skipper app, I believe.
Gotcha. And I probably had somehow not allowed that to happen. That's probably what happened. So let's see. From there, so we get off Smuggler's Run, and this is another highlight. Chewbacca was about to start meeting. So we immediately go get in line for him. While we're in line for him, Ray walks out. So we meet with Chewie. Then we go to Ray. And at this point, Ray's kind of moved inside the barricade right underneath the Millennium Falcon. And she's talking to a group of teenagers. And they're like, oh, you're our favorite. So she's like, you guys come with me. And she's talking to these teenagers. And she walks by us now. She kind of skipped by some other people that were just kind of standing there. She sees us. She sees Sloane's Ray outfit. And she's like, here, you guys come here, this over. And she kind of just brought us in front of the kind of front and center of the Falcon. And now she's talking to this group of teenagers. And then she turns her attention to Sloane and the boys and is like, okay, now has anyone taught you how to use the Force? And she's telling them how to breathe and everything. It was just a really, really cool moment for Sloane to get to have and everything. And all the kids thought it was amazing. So for them to give that kind of personalized time is certainly something that they will remember, right?
It's a good character day for you guys.
Oh, it's a great character day. Great character day. And to think that we would think, oh, is this too many rides on this day, right? But no, it was a great character day. At that point, we went to go get some blue milk and pink milk. We did some family photo pass pictures by the Falcon, and we walked up to Sci-Fi Diner. At this point, Grant is overheating and in tears at check-in, and it's 2:00, and it's just hot. Right, hot and muggy, and everyone's patience wearing thin. Blue milk can only, fill so much of your belly, so everyone kind of needed to eat. And it took probably 10 minutes or so once we checked in for us to be seated. So the fact that we were all sitting in cars and no one was really looking at each other, but we were all just staring at a screen was amazing, right?
This is what I always say. If you want breaks, this is the place to go because you don't have to talk.
No. And I will say, I didn't think the videos were anywhere close to scary for my kids. I understand every family's different, but my kids are used to watching Star Wars and stuff like that. So the fact that, or different videos with monsters or what have you. So there wasn't anything that scared them about what was happening on the screen. It was just something for them to look at and cool down and have some ice cream and some milkshakes. So, I mean, the burgers were fine, right? We didn't try and get anything fancy. So milkshake and a burger is kind of hard to screw up. And I mean, it hit the spot and it filled us up and cooled us down, and we were on our way.
And you got your Fantasmic vouchers?
Got the Fantasmic vouchers. So there are 2 Fantasmic shows that night. And I said, do we have our choice of, is it the 9 or the 10:30? And I said, or do we get a choice? He goes, no, it's only the 9:05. I guess it was. So that kind of limited our options a little bit later in the day, but we probably didn't need to be out till 11:30 at night as it was. So although I will say this, my wife had the wedge with balsamic and ordered extra bacon, and I had her take a look at my notes before I hop in on the pod here today, and she said it was one of the best wedge salads she'd ever had. So
good to know. We are always in search of the best wedge.
Yeah. So, if you're looking for bacon and lettuce, then, this one hits the spot. Probably also the air conditioning might have gone to our head a little bit too. So
Yeah, I'm thinking this is a good refuel time for you guys.
So, like I said, we were seated at 2:16. We didn't leave till 3:47, and we decided to head to Villains. And I'm putting my notes. Everyone was a lot happier than when we entered the restaurant, right?
Okay.
So we're heading to Villains, but we kind of get distracted by Animation Courtyard, mostly because Stitch was there. So Stitch and Goofy are playing Duck Duck Goose, and that's kind of wrapping up, right? And then Mulan was there with Pluto. We went up to get a photo with Mulan, who looked and saw that Sloane's shoe was untied. So now Mulan bent down and tied her shoe, which I thought was a really kind of cute moment. And then she looks at my shirt, which has the Millennium Falcon, and she goes, "Did you fight in the war?" I was like, and then let's see, Chip and Dale were also there. So, I know you've mentioned it before, but, really cool to see those characters just out and about. And so meanwhile, while we're doing this with Mulan, we then decide to head down towards Villains. But Stitch has somehow left the Duck Duck Goose, gone and back, and now is circling back. And Sloane waves to him, and the cast member says, "Do you want to come play games with Stitch in the courtyard?" And now Sloane's torn of She was the one that wanted to do Villains, but she also wants to go with Stitch. What does she do? She ultimately decides to go. We're gonna keep on going. We're gonna go to Villains. So we headed there, which I thought was, I thought the show was pretty good. But so we walk down in that area. Rocking Roller Coaster is down. We notice it's down, and everyone's just kind of hanging out. How long is it gonna be down and everything?
And did you have a lighting lane for it or no?
We did, but it was for later.
Oh, that's the Wait Magic one that you had set up. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that was
Tower
Standby Skipper. I set up Wait Magic for Tower of Terror.
Oh yeah, for modifying, right?
Yep. But
Okay.
So we go on to the villain show. We thought the costuming was really weird for Hook, right? Like his nose looked, I don't know, it just looked very fake and weird. But no, we thought the show was good. And once again, at this point, it's really hot. We're happy to be inside in the air conditioning. Maleficent won, which sounds like it's kind of the go-to. I thought Cruella de Vil has like a terrible storyline. I don't know, they're not giving some of these characters a chance. But otherwise, I thought it was good. From there, we go to Tower of Terror. So this one was going to be an interesting one for me and with everybody, right? And so 30-minute standby. We tapped in at 4:54. We were on at 5:09. Some of us get put in the front row. So it's me and Grant and maybe Sloane. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it was definitely Grant and myself. And after the ride, I asked the people how they liked it and stuff. And Grant's yelling at me, "Why did you choose this one? I didn't want to be in the front row. I wanted to be in the back." But once again, they're not in tears, so I'm kind of like, okay, well, we're just going to expose you to as much stuff. And but Sloane said it was amazing. So she loved it, right? And Elizabeth and Aaron were fine with it as well. So that was the only time I'd ever been on Disney property prior to this trip was when I'd gone with a work thing probably 10, 15 years ago, well, probably 15 years ago or more. And they'd rented out part of the park. Well, I think the whole park was closed, but we could just go on Tower of Terror or Aerosmith at the time, right? Back and forth. So that was like one of the two rides I'd ever done on Disney property. And that one was, it was fun to get to do that one again. So from there, we headed to Frozen Ever After. We walked.
Frozen sing along.
Yes. I'm sorry. So we went to it would have been quite a walk to get to Frozen Ever After. So we went to the sing along there. And so we were there we pretty much walked in. We were going to use our lightning lane, but at that point it was open seating. But we were able to find a seat. Cute show. Sloane and the boys are on the edge of their seats, eyes wide open and everything, which is really fun to watch them take it in, right? Like that's kind of the whole point of this trip for me, was to give my kids a collection of moments, because you don't know which one is going to hit, right? But that one was like, oh, that was pretty cool.
Sometimes it's test track.
Sometimes it's Test Track, right? Sometimes it's Darth Vader asking you to join the
Mhm.
dark side. You never know. Like, there's probably not a singular moment I can point to, although this one had a lot of them. This day had a lot of them, but it's just a collection of that experience, and to give
Mhm.
them those opportunities was really what we had hoped to accomplish, and I think we certainly did.
Mhm.
But that was a very cute show. Love seeing it. At this point, we set up Standby Skipper to grab Toy Story Mania in case there were some late drops in that. It eventually did that as well. It took about an hour. So, like I said, I like to have control if it was available, but if something wasn't showing up and I knew that's what we wanted, I'd kind of let it do its thing. So I don't regret having it. It's probably not as useful for me as it might be for others.
Mhm.
While we were in the show, a big storm came through, and we come outside to find people dealing with wet strollers. I had put the cover over it. It somehow blew, or I didn't do a great job, and so a little bit of the seats were wet. So I took a souvenir Disney Parks merch bag, ripped it apart, and kind of put that plastic down, so at least there, because the back wasn't wet, but the seat part had gotten a little bit soaked. So looked a little bit trashy, but the boys weren't complaining, so I didn't care, right? So at this point, we now head back down to Galaxy's Edge. More blue, pink, green milk. Like, we had 6 servings of milk throughout the day, but it's kind of like a little slushy. Because we'd found it here in the local grocery store, but it really just is a vanilla milk. So we weren't expecting the slush that we got it. But Grant, it made him happy, made Sloan happy. We'd kind of waited. Kylo Ren and the Stormtroopers were supposed to come out, but maybe with the wet pavement, or maybe because of the thunder and lightning in the area, that never happened. So after a while, we kind of punted on that and headed over to our Rise of the Resistance lightning lane there.
I'm excited to hear what you think of those.
Yeah, not surprisingly, the kids loved that. See, entered at 6:51. We were in the pre-show 5 minutes later. Just when the doors open, you see all the stormtroopers, right? That's really cool. I thought the ride was pretty solid as well. I can't point to any one singular thing, but everyone had a great time on it. It's like the right amount of thrills with not being overwhelming, right?
Mhm.
When just the idea of, like, they weren't scared that stormtroopers were shooting at us or anything like that. It hit all the marks for the kids, right? And once again, I thought the theming and everything was excellent. I will say I was disappointed in their merch selection in many ways throughout all of. I don't know what I was hoping for. If you don't want to buy a big helmet head for $150 or $200, there wasn't a ton there, especially in that area. So we ended up going back up to Star Tours, which we thought their shop had better stuff, at least for the kids.
Mhm.
Sloan got an Ewok little backpack. It's like an Ewok that straps to your back and has a little zipper you can put your stuff in. Grant got a lot of characters, 4 good, 4 bad, so he can play with that. And Brooks got a little, like, Mandalorian ball popper to shoot out these balls, which somehow we didn't lose any in the hotel room for the rest of the trip, which was maybe our largest accomplishment over anything.
Mhm.
Let's see. From there, we went back to Toy Story Land. We had a lightning lane for Slinky Dog, but at this point, with kind of impending thunder, and there wasn't lightning, but there was kind of some thunder, and so it's somewhere out there. Slinky Dog was down, but we went over there because at this point it's probably getting close to 8. Like, okay, if it pops back up, we want to go so we can get back over to Fantasmic. We went to Woody's Lunchbox, grabbed a little bit of food. At this point, I'm probably at the end of my rope a little bit, just tired and hot and muggy, and trying to find a seat and juggle a whole bunch of stuff and trying to make sure, you start to see the end of the day coming and the hours and the opportunity to give some more moments to your family, and you realize it's kind of slipping away. So at 8:15, Slinky Dog wasn't up yet, so we decided to head to Fantasmic because they were trying to make a big point. You need to be there at 8:30 with your passes. I will tell people, if you've not been, you do not need to be there at 8:30, right? For a 9:05 show, At one point, I ran out to get the stroller, something from it, at 8:55, so 10 minutes before the show starts. And when I came back, they're still checking and securing the tab. We knew that once Fantasmic was going to end, we would maybe have time for one more ride. And if Slinky Dog came back up, we would have to hustle to get back to the end of the park. And with all the people leaving at the show at the same time, we're like, okay, we're going to have to hustle. So when we sat, originally we were down in the third row, great seats, right? And we're like, it's going to take forever to get out. So we moved back towards the top and watched most of the show from there. When the ferry boat came out with all the characters on, we bolted to try and beat the crowds a little bit. Probably not to everyone's enjoyment, but we were not alone in leaving early.
Well, that's when I always leave too.
Okay,
I'm like,
thank you.
I gotta get ahead of the crowds. But I think your timing information about the Fantasmic seating is good for people that are curious. Like, how early do I need to be? And if you want to leave first, you especially don't need to be very early because you're going to be seated towards the back where you can leave easily.
So at this point, as we're waiting for the show to start, we had been able to snag a rock and roller coaster, but it was for like a 9:30. So like the last half hour of the park. And so the boys couldn't do it because they're not tall enough. Elizabeth didn't really have an interest in going upside down. Aaron definitely didn't have an interest in going upside down. So I said, Sloan, what do you want to do?
Just the two of you. Yeah.
So I said, what do you want to do? Do you want to do that? Or do you want to go Slinky Dog with everybody else? And she said she wanted to go to Slinky Dog. And I said, you know what? I've been on that before. This is not about me and what I want to do. I'd rather go. We wanted to do Slinky Dog as a family at night. So we all hoofed it.
And it was open at this time.
It was open. It had come back up 8:45 before Fantasmic had started. I mean, the weather during Fantasmic was fine. There was no rain.
Okay,
nothing.
great.
So at this point, the weather was fine. Went back, did Slinky Dog, tapped in at 9:45. Standby was 45 minutes. At this point, Grant decided that they were no longer called lightning lanes. They were called shortcuts. So he started singing a song that we took a shortcut. And that became for the rest of the trip. It was all about, well, do we have a shortcut? And I said, yes, we do. So we were on at 9:50. I mean, it was great. I mean, that one's a fun roller coaster. It's not too crazy, right? But it's not boring and it's not overly short either. So that one was enjoyable. We left the park. I think we did a little shopping on our way out, but left the park and we decided, okay, we're going to take the boat back across. And we saw one that was there and I said, all right, let's hustle and see if we can get in. And so the family was able to go and they're like, sir, we don't have room for your stroller unless you can fold it up. And at this point, I'm like, we've accumulated so much stuff over the course of this day. I said, I'm not going to be able to fold this up, right? And so since family on ahead, I decided to take a little walk, which was nice and peaceful. It was me time.
Did you beat them back?
I beat them back by about a minute.
Okay.
A minute or two, and that includes when you kind of turn the corner and it's, I guess, maybe some of the bus stops there. I stayed in line for the bus stop rather than drop down to the sidewalk that goes along the water. So I had to backtrack even a little bit more. So I did beat them back by about 2 minutes. Like it was a nice, peaceful walk, other than the danger alligators and snakes in the area sign that they have there. But someone said you had a lot of stuff in your stroller you could have thrown at an alligator or something. But no, that was good. We were back in the room at 11. Showers, kids were asleep by 11:30, except for Grant, who played with his Star Wars characters for another 15 minutes or so. So 20,497 steps that day.
But you get extra credit because it was hot. That's what I say.
It was extra credit for the hot. And it was, I mean, that was a rope
a long day, but lots of fantastic moments. So you're really selling it for anybody that's debating Hollywood Studios.
I would say if you're willing to wait in line for the characters, or you really like the rides, but especially if you really like the characters, and as you've said, I mean, the animation courtyard, we barely played. So even if you had younger kids and you just took them there for those character interactions, like we also didn't go down, we would have We didn't do any of the characters in Toy Story other than Woody and Jesse were out waving a slinky dog during early entry, and they did a group photo with probably 15 kids that my kids were part of. But there's a ton of more character stuff you could have done there, and we just didn't get a chance. We didn't get to go see Sully or any of those characters as well.
There's a lot going on.
So a ton. We were listening to the recent podcast you had where the woman had gone and met Bitsy from Super Kitties, right? And so we were driving, and Sloane's listening with me. She goes, "We could have met Bitsy." I go, "Sloane, you met plenty of people." So
You got to go back. Okay. So overall, a really good day.
Great day.
Okay. So your next day was Wednesday, June 17th. And after those two pretty busy days, I am excited to hear how your first Magic Kingdom day goes.
Yeah. So we decided that we weren't going to rope drop, but I also have a little bit of a fear of missing out of like, hey, we could be in the park doing something, right? But so I had a little bit of work to do, so I got up about 6:15 and I left the room. And the beach club, at least on the fourth floor, probably all the floors, have some nice kind of lobbies up on each floor with chairs and couch. So I just sat there and peacefully, one that keeps me away from my family, being like, you should be up. You should be up right now. Why aren't you up now? We could be doing something if you're up, right?
You're letting them rest.
I'm letting them rest by being away from them. So self-awareness is a good trait to have. So I went back to the room. Family started to wake up about 7:15, 7:30. Everyone was pretty much ready to go except for Brooks. He's our sleeper. He's our snuggler, and he just did not want to leave his blankie and pillow. We eventually got everyone dressed. We kind of forced Brooks to get dressed. He's a little wiry guy, but he is really strong, and we're trying to force the clothes on him. We have end up leaving the room. He doesn't have his shoes on, so we're carrying that. Eventually, we ordered a minivan, and he's waiting for the minivan, eating bacon in his socks, but no judgment, right? Like, we've got stuff to do and whatever it takes. That's kind of sometimes our motto. But so we took the minivan while we were en route. A Wait Magic modified Big Thunder from kind of middle of the afternoon up to about noon. I was actually concerned moved it too early, so I moved it back to like 1 o'clock or so. But thanks to your podcast, I'm always thinking about the lightning lanes in that 3-hour window, right? Not just the hour. It's at one point we did the 5 minutes early, but a lot of times we were an hour and a half late and never had any issue there. So
I'm glad you're saying it, because I feel like even people that listen sometimes are missing that key point. You can be late.
Yeah, and to which I almost was too late on the last day. We'll get to that. But like I pushed it 2 hours and 50 some minutes. And so we were, it was very useful. And once we did it once, my wife actually started to believe me that this was a real thing and I knew what I was doing, and we didn't have to go by the time that was showing up in our app. So what I didn't know is I think once that first hour, it then lets you, do you get to add a new one? But I didn't know if I added a new one, if it would kick the old one out of the system. So I never was brave enough to try that. So, but let's see. So we were loaded. We were in the minivan by about 8:58. We were at Magic Kingdom by 9:10, 9:11, quickly through security and the tap styles. And then, so we decided to get in line for the castle photos. I will tell this to anyone that has not been there. Do not stop at the first line you see. The closer I'd get in line, and Erin would go up and she'd be like, she'd call me, there's a shorter line, come up here. So we'd get out and go, and she'd go, all right, I'm gonna do it again. So we probably did that 3 times, and to where rather than being 15 groups back, we were 3 groups back, a little bit closer to the castle. Unless you really want Main Street captured in that photo, that was certainly a more efficient use of our time. This was our matching family shirt day, which our teenager was a huge fan of, but she was a good sport. I told her, you have to wear it for the photo. We'll take the photo first thing in the morning. After that, I don't care, right? Be a good sport.
Good compromise.
Yep. So after that, we went over to Buzz, tapped in at 9:50 for our 9:55 lightning lane. We were on the ride 8 minutes later. This is a fun ride. We had also enjoyed Toy Story Mania, but I think we enjoyed this one more. Like I said, I don't know what it used to be like. I've heard the complaints, but this whole thing was really good.
Those Astro Blasters that you could pick up and shoot, they used to be stationary.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can see why this is so much better, right? So at one point then the ride pauses. I don't even know it. While there's that one scene of Zurg saying, I need more power, more power. So we're just paused. And so I realized, oh, I can just keep on shooting here and rack up my point total. But I was a little bit concerned, like, how long are we going to be here? But the ride never stopped. We're just, we stopped moving, but everything kept on. When we got to the end, they just said, hey, they had to load someone from a wheelchair onto the ride. So no issue. And it really helped our score look a lot better than it did the second time we rode it later in the trip. But Erin turned out to be the Buzz Lightyear champ. I was the Toy Story Mania champ, but both times we rode Buzz, she was the winner there. Let's see. While we were here, I grabbed a Tiana's Lightning Lane for later in the day. And at that point, we headed over to Crystal Palace. But before breakfast, the girls had to get changed. Elizabeth had to get out of that family T-shirt, like I said. And Sloan had her Winnie the Pooh dress that she put on for this breakfast here. So,
I love it. Sloan's changing clothes.
oh yeah, yeah. She had many park outfits throughout the trip. So let's see. We had a 10:25 reservation. Our name was called about 9 minutes later at 10:34. Even though it's only mid-morning, we're already kind of hot and hungry and cranky. And that wait outside, they kind of keep you outside there, and there were no seats. And I was like, how long is this? Because there were a lot of people waiting outside. I'm like, how long I think people were on a wait list or whatever, but fortunately, it didn't take us long to get inside. Once we got inside, it was a lot of fun. First character that came over was Tigger, super playful. Brooks had a little stuffed animal frog that we call Mr. Greenie. Tigger took Mr. Greenie, put him on Brooks's head, then he put him on Tigger's head. And so now if you're going to do that, especially with Brooks, but with both the boys, now they're just going to play off of it, right? So that was a great thing for everyone except Eeyore, who came right after that. And Eeyore, in character, not quite as playful as Tigger. Brooks didn't quite realize that. And the cast member was like, maybe Eeyore doesn't like to play as rough, right? I'm like,
Eeyore doesn't like much.
Eeyore doesn't like much. And also, like, I felt bad, but I'm also like, it was that guy. It was that orange guy. He got him going up, right? It's his fault. But then Piglet. So we were seated at 10:34. By 11:24, we'd had all three characters that came to the table. So once again, I thought that was an efficient use of time. We were in line for Pooh at 11:35, I thought. So within an hour, we'd seen all the characters. So it's not taking a ton of time.
And what about the food?
I thought, well, so the churro Mickey waffles were a hit. We tried those both with and without the ice cream. And they had shrimp and grits, which I thought was pretty good. Not the best I've ever had, but fairly solid. So I was fairly impressed with this meal. I was not disappointed in any way. In my mind, I'm still somewhat at a theme park, and I'm paying for the character experience. So as long as something tastes good, then I'm pleasantly surprised or at least happy. And so that was enjoyable for the adults. And we certainly left feeling like we had enough to eat and that we ate good stuff. So I would recommend, especially if you're borderline Winnie the Pooh fan, when this was our time to meet him, so we didn't have to spend time at any of the other opportunities, that this was a good use of a breakfast, especially having 2 days in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
For one, I wouldn't spend time here.
And the price of these meals gives me anxiety, but you were on the dining plan and your three youngest were free. So there's that.
Yeah. So once again, that math may not work out another time, but for us with this, our set of specifics worked out just fine.
Yeah. Makes sense for you.
Yeah. So once again, I put everyone was happier when we left. It was around 11:50. About that time, Weight Magic had moved up our Tianas from 8:10 to 1:30, which was nice. So let's see. We started to walk to Big Thunder randomly came up on a cavalcade in Liberty Square, which was kind of neat for the kids. Just for like 2 minutes, watch a bunch of characters go by. And then we went to Jesse's Roundup, and my wife went to the Christmas shop. I thought the Jesse's Roundup thing was nice. We could kind of come and go. There was no set start or end. When we got there, the horse was dancing around, and then the cast members did some things, and then Jesse came out and Woody came out. So we were in there 30 minutes, and they got to see a few characters, but they also had games on the side that they were playing, like bags and kind of a ring toss game. So a lot of options. Seating for the parents, although there were a lot of parents in there, so not seats for everybody, but poles to lean up against. It was a good time. From there, we walked over to Big Thunder, tapped in at 12:25. Standby was at 25, but it didn't take us that long to get on. This was probably one of the negatives of the trip, or negative bad behavior we saw. When we tapped in, there was a mother yelling at a cast member the mom had a girl who wasn't tall enough, clearly wasn't tall enough, and she's yelling, "She's just 2." And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter how old she is. One, I don't know what point you're trying to make. She's not tall enough for the ride, right? The cast member's doing her job. She's not the one that set the rules, right? But it was kind of unfortunate to see. We'll come back to that. But so we get on the ride at 12:40. It was fine. I think the kids were a little disappointed comparing it to Slinky Dog probably the night before. So they didn't. Once again, I don't know what the ride was like beforehand. I don't know if it's drastically different, very much the same, or anything.
It's the same with a few improvements.
Okay. So I thought it was fine. Probably slight edge to Seven Dwarfs. Mm-hmm. But so we didn't do it the second day, but I'm glad we did it the first day. Mm-hmm. But, so on the way out, my wife went over and spoke to a different cast member. Just wanted to check on how that first cast member was doing. And the gentleman said, "It happens. It's unfortunate, though. It doesn't make it any easier," right? When she goes, "Well, I just wanted to let her know that we appreciate her and make sure she's doing okay." And then we were even walking back past Tiana's, and we saw the original cast member. They'd moved her to a different location, and Aaron went up and just said, "Hey, sorry for what happened to you. You handled that as best you could." So
that was nice of you to check, because that cannot be easy for them.
No, and it's hot. They're standing out in the sun, right? And it's unfortunate when they say, "Yeah, it happens," right? Like, It shouldn't happen. Right?
I know, and it would be easier on them if they just let them through, but it wouldn't be safe.
No, that's the thing. I don't want to really have an issue with the safety of my kids. So they can grow and go on at another time. So, but in the middle of this, Standby Skipper did grab Jungle Cruise, so we were able to have that on the slate for later in the evening. From there, we went straight to Seven Dwarfs. Tapped in at 1:05. Standby was 50 minutes, and we were on at 1:15. So
that was a good shortcut.
Yes, that was a very good shortcut. Very good shortcut, especially a lot of that queue being outside and everything. So from there, we went down to Pirates. Tapped in at 1:37. There's a 15-minute standby. We're on in 5 minutes. Kids really like this. They're really into the movies, or I guess they've only seen the first one, but they like watching Pirates of the Caribbean quite a bit. So we were off about 1:50, and we had about half an hour to kill before our Beacon Barrel reservation. So, we bought some swords in the gift shop, and then we tried to find a little bit of shade.
You're brave.
What, the swords?
Swords, yeah.
Oh, you have no idea. There are a lot of weapons at my house. I mean, they're all plastic, right? But there were definitely some swords, and we got more swords later.
Well, I'm just picturing the twins in the stroller with the swords. It feels like a fight.
It does. You are correct, right? So, I mean, these are two that every night they'd be like, "Brooks, you want to fight? You want to battle?"
Oh my gosh. Is it a side-by-side stroller or front to back for my...
It's a side-by-side.
See, they're right next to each other.
Nice and wide, right? So
easy battling distance.
Yep, for sure. For sure. So, we had to make sure they stayed nice and cool and hydrated and everything. So we waited for our Beacon Barrel reservation, checked in at about 2:16. Our table was ready 2 minutes later. They sat us in the main room. When you walk in from the doors, kind of looking at the back, so off to the side of the bar, there's a little alcove that's got a nice table. That's where they had us. So
I can see why you liked it better than Oga's.
great location, right? So, but I'm like, I want to see the bar. And so some of the kids were on facing the bar. I had my back to the bar, and then my wife sat right next to me. So she was on the edge. And like the first time the parrot started singing or whatever, and I'm like, what's he doing? She's like, I don't know. I said, switch with me. If you're not going to pay attention, I'm going to pay attention to this. But yeah, this was an enjoyable experience. I mean, not that the kids ate a ton, but there was some stuff for them to eat that wasn't spicy. The drinks were good, right? I mean, they're all the pre-batched and everything. So nothing was like, wow, it's the best cocktail I've ever had. But the experience, I mean, we have photos of the boys with their swords holding them up and everything there. And the server was great. Apparently the server had been telling everyone for a week or so that her birthday was coming up. So all the other servers were tired of it. And they, on her birthday, made sure that every one of her tables wished her happy birthday. So you give my kids a job to do, they will tell everybody happy birthday. So, but no, it was enjoyable. We used the whole 45 minutes there. And I would say there were some people standing. It did seem more people were seated there than at Oga's, and the people that were standing, you seem to have more space where you are standing. So you're not as cramped even if you are standing. So
I think it's mostly that room, like when you go in to the left, it's the map room.
Okay.
It's one big table, and I think it's just standing.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you can't see anything, so the
No.
room really matters there.
It does. And my wife, the first time at Oga's, was like, well, could you have requested? Nope. It's whatever comes available, right? So it's luck of the draw. So we paid for it at Oga's. That when it worked in our favor here at Beacon Barrel. So yeah. So from there, we headed up to Tiana's. So I thought we'd be held up by the 3:00 parade because at this point it's like 3:05. But does the parade not come out right there?
It does.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, it's 3:05. So I don't know what happened. I didn't see. We weren't stopped by it. I didn't see that it was just had gone down the road or whatever. So, I mean, no big
Interesting.
deal. No big deal. We weren't going to stop and watch it anyway. I just didn't want to be held up by it.
Yeah.
So,
Because it definitely could block you.
yeah. So we went on to Tiana's. We tapped in at 3:13. Standby was 40 minutes, but we were on in about 20. It's a little bit longer of a lightning lane wait, but the queue was great, and we were inside for most of it, and so refreshing on a hot day. This was one of my favorite rides. We did it both days at Magic Kingdom. I am not sure if I went in January or February if it would have been my favorite ride, but when,
That's why they shut it down for refurb a lot.
okay, yep.
But where were you seated?
We were seated in the front row.
Okay.
Yeah, so the front row, let's see if I put it. It was Brooks, Sloan, and myself in the front row, and the other three were in the second row. And I mean, we got it pretty good, but I mean, it's all up here and here, right? As opposed to like Cali, where it's like all in your shorts and your shoes and everything.
Oh, I'm curious to learn how you discovered that.
Yes, perhaps. So yeah, so we love Tiana's. And it was really nice to help it cool down. The plan was to head out of the park as we're walking back through Adventureland. I think it's Adventureland. Sorry if I got that wrong. But Aladdin, I looked and it was 5-minute lightning lane, or I could get one for right then. So I did that. Me and the three youngest went on that. And Elizabeth and Aaron went and got a couple different kinds of Dole Whip. So, everyone kind of got what they wanted. Kids got more rides. We had Dole Whip, came off the ride, a little bit of Dole Whip, and headed out of the park. So that was kind of a good first part of the park day. Although we didn't quite get out of the park, we decided to go to Main Street Confectionery, and I'm trying to maneuver the stroller kind of around people and through the ruts and everything. And the handle snapped, so I could used the handle, but it had broken on one side. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to want to deal with this the next 3 days, but it could get us through the day. But we still went to the Main Street Confectionery. The girls made their own popcorn. But, now people are tired and worn down. We're in the bus line now, exiting the park. And somehow I think Grant has now started to fall asleep and has kind of slid down in his seat. And I push the stroller and it rolls up, his leg gets caught underneath. So now he's in tears and screaming. And now the bus pulls up, right? And we're trying to get all our stuff organized. And Aaron's got a screaming kid holding him. And I've got the stroller. And Sloan and Elizabeth are holding bags. And I did not see this coming, but the bus driver is like, would he like some bus transportation cards, like little baseball cards or something? And like that, Grant's demeanor totally shifted. So like he's given him 4 or 5 bus transportation cards. So who knew that was the way to stop a crying kid? But,
Those transportation cards are pretty special.
Yeah, I wasn't asking any questions. If it works, then we're going with that. So, but let's see, it was about 5 o'clock and we're heading back to the beach club. And at that point, I'm like, okay, kids need to sleep because we do have extended evening hours and our plan was to be there for a while.
And you had a dessert party?
We had a dessert party. So we're like, the kids need to sleep and they need some food. And at this point, so the one downside of the beach club, is the quick service is not good, especially for kids. And our kids are very picky. So we decided to DoorDash Chick-fil-A because we knew that they would eat it, right? So we did that. The kids probably slept for about an hour, tried to get the kids back up about 7:30 or so. Brooks was a bear cat once again. We left the room at 8, just missed a bus. The next one was at 8:15. So once again, Brooks is out there in his stocking feet just eating nuggets. And I'm like, okay, you'll put your shoes on in a little bit. But then he had to go to the bathroom. So I ran him back inside, and the lobby bathroom at the beach club wasn't open. So I had to go back over on the other side of Cape May, hurry up, get him back out. But it said the next bus wasn't coming until 8:17, and it's like 8:12. And my wife's texting me. It's like, hey, the bus is here. You might want to hurry. So we hustle, and we're like the last people they let on. But they at least let us on. We arrived at the park at 8:30. At this point, we had Tron single pass lightning lanes that we bought for everyone. The idea was that some people would be able to use it twice. That didn't really happen. Let's see. So I rode with the girls, and we all enjoyed it. But like the first thing Sloan said after she got off was, that ride was so short. And this is, it was an 80-minute walk on. Elizabeth's like, why would you wait 80 minutes for that? But like that takeoff is great, right? But that is that's a commitment. Our wait was about 25 minutes. And so it's off at 9:15. Check-in for the dessert party, it started at 9. So by the time we make it back over, it's 9:30. And we helped a kid find his parents. There was a lost kid coming out of Tron. He was in tears. Elizabeth showed most impressive moment of the trip for her in my eyes. She was like, immediately the kid was probably 10 years old and couldn't find his parents. And he's like, Elizabeth said, okay, do you know their phone number? And so the kid didn't know the phone number, and we started the dial, and about that time the family came out, and they were very appreciative. And then Elizabeth turned to Sloan and said, do you know Mom and Dad's phone number? And she's like, no, I don't. She's like, well, you need to learn it in case this ever happens to you. So a little life lesson in the middle of Tron. And
I don't know anybody's phone number.
Well, like Elizabeth's probably not going to let me say this. She's like, I don't know how to dial the phone number on the phone. She goes, Dad, everyone I call, they're in my contacts. I just tap their name and I call it, right? So I'm like, I remember my home phone number growing up. I don't know anyone's phone number now, right?
Is that any recent ones? I have no idea.
No clue, right? So I just tap their name and it goes right to it. So, but at that point we go over to the fireworks dessert party, checked in, and we're on the grass by about 9:30. I would say this experience was okay, right? Like, I'm glad we did it, because had we not done it, I would have said, I wish we would have done it.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I would do it again with kids, because maybe if we'd gotten there right when it opened, although there were people in line when we walked by it to go to Tron at like 8:40, there were people in line waiting to check in. So maybe if you got those spots, then kids wouldn't have to be standing over adults. It's great for adults because you have a spot that is a great viewing location.
Mhm.
Your kids aren't getting any taller though because they're there. They still have adults standing in front of them. So now during the whole fireworks show, trying to hold my kids, but I'm not trying to hold them up too high. So I'm trying to make sure their head isn't higher than my head, right? And
Mhm.
I have Sloan, and she's a big girl. I mean, not she's a tall, skinny thing, but she's 60 some pounds. I'm not strong enough to hold her for more than a song and a half. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put you down for a little bit, and now we're going to lift you back up. So I didn't feel as immersed in the fireworks show as I would have liked. But like I said, had I not done it, and who knows where we would have ended up watching it from. And so I'm glad we did it. This is one of those I probably wouldn't do again.
Okay.
So if people are considering, everyone's got different things that work for them and whatnot. And for that, that wasn't a thing. The dessert party was fine, right? That area where they have it, it just felt kind of low end to me, right? It's like a big cafeteria. It reminded me of like a high school cafeteria and just a bunch of tables, and comparing it to like a 1900 Park Fair, which has a elevated feel or something. It felt very mass produced, processed, and everything. Desserts were good. The kids really liked the build your own ice cream sundaes. So probably sounding more critical than I am. It was okay. Okay. And if for the right group, it probably works better than for others. So
And then at this point, did you have a plan for extended evening theme park hours? What was your goal there?
yeah, so we did. So we're like, okay, well, let's go do Space Mountain, because my thought was Friday was going to be Princess's Fantasyland, and I'm like, if we can knock out anything in Tomorrowland, it's then something that we don't have to hit again on Friday. And so it's like, okay, can we do a couple things in Tomorrowland and then maybe Haunted Mansion, right? So we never did get to our Jungle Cruise Lightning Lane. We never did have a chance to do that. So we went over to Space Mountain. Somewhere along the line, I thought that it was 40 or 42 inches for the height. And we get up there and they're like, oh, we need to check Brooks. I'm like, wait, what's the height? It says 44. And he's 43 and a half, right? And now the cast member's apologetic to us. I go, no, that's my mistake, right? And she goes, I mean, I know, but he's so close. I go, no, that's my mistake. I would not have tried to get him in line. I said, I screwed up. I had just had the wrong. So I was afraid he was going to be all in tears, which he kind of wasn't. I don't think he quite understood what was going on. So Aaron, Sloan, Elizabeth, and Grant rode it the first time. Brooks and I waited at the bottom for the rider swap. And Grant loved this ride. Absolutely loved the ride. So once they got off,
But I feel like that might be extra intense for you because they're twins.
in terms of like,
That one twin gets to ride and one doesn't.
yeah. So my plan going into the trip was that the stuff that was 44, neither one was going to ride. But now, like, we're just going to tell them they couldn't do it. But now we brought him up to the thing. He knew he was tall enough.
Exactly.
Whatever.
So that situation is always difficult with kids, but you got two and one can go.
One can go, and the other one is almost tall enough, right? So that was, so actually Sloan didn't ride this. It turns out, Erin told me later, she felt a little bit off after Tron, right? So she didn't express that to me, but that's why she didn't want to go on another roller coaster at that time. So it was Erin, Elizabeth, and Grant. They all went, and then I rode it with Grant and Elizabeth, and like the rest of the trip, Grant was talking about it, and he was like humming the theme song. I don't even know if it's the right theme song, but it's the song he was hearing in his head that he associated with the ride. And I'll be sure to send in this for the photos. Like the smile on his face is just, I mean, he's having the time of his life, right? Now, to me, this is old school roller coaster, right? You're being jostled, right? You're like, that is the opposite of Guardians. For as smooth as Guardians is, this is the complete opposite. But I enjoyed it, but it was a little bit different. So at this point, our three young kids are going strong. Our teenager is starting to fade, which I thought it would be the opposite, right? I was thinking, hey, we're going to do this, and this is going to be a late night thing. It's something for the teenager to have her time, her moment. No, that was not the case. But we all rode Tomorrowland Speedway. We let the three youngest each have a ride. Said it was going to be a 10-minute wait. It was probably closer to 15. I'm thankful we didn't do it in the middle of the day when it was really sunny and everything waiting in that line.
Hot and long wait for a ride that's just meh.
Exactly. Meh at best, right? But the idea of Brooks and Grant and Sloan getting to drive a car, that was pretty good. So they enjoyed that. After that, some people wanted to go on Haunted Mansion, other people wanted to go home. It was a little bit touch and go for a little bit, but we ended up going on Haunted Mansion. It said it was the 13-minute standby, which I think saw somewhere meant it was like actually a walk-on or whatever.
Yep.
So,
on Tower of Terror and Haunted Mansion. That's what that means.
Okay. So we get up there, and in the queue, there seemed to be one space where you could go either way, and we weren't sure which way now to go because there's no one else getting in line. And then we see someone as a cast member. We're like, is this the way? And he really creepily stretches out his arm to point, and we're like, well, that guy was extra creepy. And I mean, he was in character 100%. That might have been the creepiest part of the ride for me, at least, right? And so he motions us in, and right away we're able to go into the stretching room and start it. And at this point, I'm like, I don't know how the kids are going to do on this, right? And we just kept on saying, hey, this is all pretend. These are funny ghosts and what have you. Once we talked them through it, they actually, most of them enjoyed the ride and were wanting to go back on Friday as well. So we got off that ride at, it was about 12:40.
Wow.
At that point, we're going to head out of the park. We decided to walk through Fantasyland so we can walk through the castle. Sloan did a quick photo pass shoot by the Rapunzel with one of the lanterns that she was holding up by the bathrooms there. So that was kind of cute. All the kids did the Sword in the Stone. No one pulled it, probably because whatever trick they have to someone triggering it had gone home long ago, right? So now they're just pulling this thing that's stuck, but they all enjoyed it. We did order a minivan. Minivan arrived at 1. I'll say our driver, Shelby, she was excellent, right? I mean, she was totally engaging. When we got back to the beach club, she gave the boys and Sloan stickers, made them honorary junior minivan drivers and stuff. So kids were pumped. I mean, they were like, Elizabeth was up to the room, but the littles, I mean, it's 1:15 and they're still going strong. So that was a fun day. Last thing I did before I went to sleep is I pushed back our Thursday breakfast as late as I could, which only ended up being from 9:10 to 9:25, but those 15 minutes came in handy the next morning. So, but
That was a long day.
this day was 21,200 steps.
So Epcot still has the top spot for steps because it's so huge. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, the next day was Thursday, June 18th, and it was a non-park day. But as you said, you did have a breakfast reservation.
Yes, we did. So we slept in. I use that term loosely. We were I was up at 7:30. Once again, went back out to the 4th floor lobby. Also reached out to the stroller company about exchanging the stroller, which fortunately they were able to make happen. And fortunately, this was a day that we were just staying at the resort all day. So it didn't really negatively impact anything. So let the family sleep in till about 9. It's the advantages of doing Cape May is with a 9:25 reservation, sleep in till 9. Just
Right.
throw on some clothes, check in at 9:23. They wouldn't seat us till everyone got there. Last person wandered down about 9:35. So this is the one thing where like, would I do it again or would I not? And my wife and I were even talking about it in the next couple of days, right? Because part of me is like, we could just take the Skyliner over to Topolino's, right? And the food is, everyone says it's better, right? But we could also just wake up at 9 and be right down. And I think given our schedule and the way we were go, even knowing everything we know, we would once again, schedule it at Cape May. So if you're at Beach Club and you're looking for a character breakfast that is super easy, that is definitely a way to go.
Eat where you are.
Eat where you are. And let's see, so we were there at 9:35. We'd seen all the characters by 10. Donald was probably our favorite of the group. So Donald was giving hugs at the end, and Elizabeth did not give him one. Elizabeth said she did not know Donald wanted a hug, or that he was looking to her to give him a hug. Donald then grabbed a chair, dragged it over to a corner, pointed at Elizabeth, and told her to go sit in the chair, and then made her sit there. He's looking at his watch for like 30, 45 seconds, and then she was allowed to go back and rejoin the family. So, I mean, the kids thought that was a hoot, right? I mean, those are the special, unique. It's not just take a picture, sign the autograph book. It was some of those moments that were really good. Elsewhere, at one point, my wife saw another family complaining about Minnie, that she had not interacted well enough with the kids. And Minnie was a little bit quick, but I'm kind of like, she can't say anything, right? So I don't know what exactly you're looking for, but I understand everyone's got different expectations. And also, if that's your one time, right? My kids were lucky. They got to have amazing interactions with some of their besties. And that family's just looking for that same thing for their daughter, who's a Minnie Mouse fan, right? So I'll say the food was average, but there was some good stuff. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of average, but all in all, this is probably our least enjoyable meal. But for where we were and when we were, it was the right decision for us as well. So, and I didn't want it to take too long because this is the day we had the cabana.
You did. When did that begin?
So we could have checked in at, I don't know, it was either 10 or 11. We didn't get down there till a little bit after 11. But if I said the fireworks dessert party for us would be a one and done, the cabana would be an every time.
Wow.
I didn't want to rope drop the pool, and it's a hot day, so you'd want to make sure you have some sort of covering. You want to make sure you have seats to be able to have a place that had coverings, to have some beverages, everything that the cabana offered, a place to escape a little bit. I would recommend to anyone who it fits within their budget, who plans on being at the pool a majority of the day. And we were there from 11:15, 11:30 till about 6 o'clock, right? So
That's a long day. You really took advantage.
it's a long day, but it wasn't like we were out in the sun the entire time, right? Like you could come in and had TV. So during lunch, the kids are able to come kind of move some of the chairs and the little sofa around, and they're able to watch TV. And Hurricane Hannah's, I thought, was also very good. I had a lobster roll from there that was good, and adult cocktails and what have you, and snacks and dessert and everything for the kids. It does provide a break in the middle of an otherwise hot day. But I mean, they love the pool. It was the only day that we actually made it to the pool at our resort, which is a little bit of a shame, but they had a blast. They had a blast there. They went down the slide a ton, the little mini lazy river. There's a little sandbar that they ended up playing on quite a bit as well. And our kids are old enough that we feel like we don't have to keep an eye on them 100% of the time, right? Because if you did, if they were a little bit younger, I could see that Storm Long Bay is probably too big.
It is.
But at least with having twins, you kind of have a buddy system a little bit too. So there's always kind of going off in pairs and everything. So with the number of lifeguards, we felt fairly secure with giving them a little bit of freedom to at least have some general awareness of what they were doing and where they were, but not eyes on all at 100% of the time. So
Yeah, and what a nice sort of downtime in the middle of your trip to do something different.
yeah, for sure. And I will say, so like I called right at 7 o'clock on the 60-day to reserve the cabana, and it was day 5 of our trip, and I got the last one. So had it been day 2 or day 3, they probably would have been booked, right? So a little bit surprising that they only have 4, right? But they feel there's just not enough space But yeah, we would definitely, our recommendation, or we would definitely look into doing this again if we had a full resort day. At that point, the math worked in our favor. So like I said, we were there until about 6. Then we went to Disney Springs at night. See, we hit the Star Wars store. The Grant told me he didn't have enough bad guys, so he needed some more bad guys for his characters. And then the superhero store and World of Disney, and mobile ordered deluxe burger and got a milkshake, and then headed back to the room this was going to be our early night. We didn't head back to the room till about 10 o'clock at night. So in bed at about 11, light day, only 14,900 steps. So,
But you were in the pool. That's a lot of exertion too.
that's right. It was up the water slide down, up the water slide down. So.
All right. So after that non-park day, you had another Magic Kingdom day the next day, Friday, June 19th.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. Kids, I got up about 6. Kids were awake at 6:45. We had stuff ready to go. We left the room by 7:08. Once again, we did the minivan. And we kind of found, other than when you leave the park at 1 a.m., to go to Magic Kingdom, we thought it was better to take the minivan there and not time them getting the bus up, because I knew we wouldn't be there in time to get the first bus. So let's see, we were heading to security about 7:55, through the tap styles at 8:02, and we decided to head to Peter Pan for early entry. I had a Peter Pan lightning lane for later in the day, so once we got in line for Peter Pan, and I wanted to be sure that it actually didn't go down or anything like that, but once we were getting on, I canceled that and grabbed a Jungle Cruise for later in the afternoon. So I canceled one tier 1, grab another one. So, but that line was moving at 8:17. Thought the queue was kind of neat. We were on at 8:40 and got off, and then went right to Winnie the Pooh with a side stop to high five Stitch as he was wandering around the carousel. Just a quick high five, and then kind of keep going to Winnie the Pooh. Once again, enjoyed this queue. We were on at about 9, and while this was happening, Wait Magic had moved up our Dumbo burner lightning lane from 10 o'clock up to 9:30, so we were going to be able to tap in and just kind of start churning and get through as many rides and everything that day. So got off Winnie the Pooh, went right to the carousel, 5-minute wait. So that was quick. They went to Little Mermaid. They kind of had to stop a couple times to transfer wheelchairs and everything there. So we didn't really get moving until about 9:27, but we were off by 9:35. This was very nostalgic for my wife. She was a huge Ariel fan growing up. And so that for her, that was a really good ride. I thought it was nice too, but Ariel was always her favorite princess. So that was a highlight for her. From there, we walked up to Gaston's and had to try the cinnamon roll and the creme brulee croissant. I will say the Gaston's cinnamon roll is the one thing that lived up to the hype for me food-wise, right? Like I enjoy my sweets. I enjoy my cinnamon rolls. Everyone says, oh, it's nice and soft in the middle. I was expecting to somewhat be disappointed. I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was really, really good. So a little bit of food, a little bit of sugar, just to kind of keep people powering through. At this point, the plan was to go down to Buzz to use that lightning lane, but it was down. And so that was converted to an anytime pass. So we went to Dumbo for our burners. But I did grab Tiana's at this point as well. So we get to Dumbo's. Goofy, Minnie, and Donald were about to ride. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite make it up to the front to ride with them as well, but we did get to watch them go around. It was about a 10-minute wait, probably because it took longer for the characters to get buckled in and everything. But we got off of that, and I grabbed a Haunted Mansion lightning lane for later in the day. Like I said, everyone really enjoyed that on Wednesday late at night when we did that. So at this point, Sloan had a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique appointment at 10:25, so we kind of split up. The boys and I went to go do the Smellephant's scavenger hunt, because for some reason Brooks had heard someone say scavenger hunt, and he really, really wanted to do this. And then Elizabeth came and joined us. And because I was like, I want to take the boys on Barnstormer, but I need someone else to ride with. I've got 2 little ones, so I need a second big person. So she came back to do that with us. That queue, not great, certainly in the sun, right? And that ride so short. I don't know. I was expecting something. I knew it was like an entry roller coaster. I had no idea it was that short. And I think even the boys were a little bit disappointed. Now, I mean, they're younger, but they had now a full week of going on amazing rides and
Yeah.
stuff. So they're kind of like, that's it. They were also really spoiled by all the shortcuts that we'd had, the lightning lanes. So this queue, and even though it's probably only 10, 12 minutes, the sun's beating down on you. And so they were a little bit hot and cranky. So we then went for snacks. Elizabeth got a churro, Grant had to get a popsicle, and Brooks got some popcorn. Everyone was back to being happy. Elizabeth went back over to Bibbidi Bobbidi because they were going to do the pixie dust in the hair, so she wanted some of that. So the boys and I hopped on the railroad just to kind of go back and forth. Once we got off there, we went back to meet them. Sloan had chosen Ariel. I think it was her choice. Also, she already has Rapunzel dress, Belle dress, right? Like the same high-end ones that they're selling there. So maybe she was like, what dress do I want next? But so she looked great. We got in line for the Princess Fairy Tale Hall. And when we got there, Tiana and Cinderella were in the same line, and the other one was the 2 surprise princesses, which worked great for us. We'd already seen Cinderella. We were about to see Cinderella again inside Cinderella's royal table, and we'd already seen Tiana, even though, as Aaron pointed out, we saw Tiana in her work attire, not her princess ball gown. I said, the signature's the same. Let's not worry about it. So we're like, okay, now we're going to roll the dice and hopefully something turns out well. Well, it was Snow White and Rapunzel, 2 princesses we hadn't met. So I think it worked in our favor. Had greater interactions with them. We were done at 12:15. Went straight to Enchanted Tales with Belle. It was about a 12-minute wait for that. Grant was chosen to be the Beast because he had a great roar. So I'm like, this is great for him. I'm super proud of him. He's kind of clingy and has anxiety and everything. Well, it took so long for them to assign all the other parts that in the middle, he now like starts to burst into tears and is like, I don't want to do it. So I'm like trying to get Brooks to do it. He's like, I don't want to do it. So they gave it to some other kid who turned out to be just fine, right? But I'm like, that was your chance, right? That was your chance, right? That would have been a great photo of you dancing with Belle. Come on now. But
This is too much pressure.
Too much pressure, and I kind of needed to get over my dad arrogance there. And so Sloan was a plate. I thought that was a really cute show, and glad we did it. They weren't upset that they didn't get to have bigger roles or anything like that. So that was our only meeting with Belle. It was the one princess we didn't get her autograph, but I guess you got to have some things for next trip, right? So from there, we went to Ariel's Grotto. That was a really nice interaction. It only took about 6 minutes or so. And from there, we went over to Cinderella's royal table. Great meal, good character interactions. Let's see, we saw Cinderella, Jasmine, Aurora.
Snow White?
Snow White was not there. The only new one for us was Merida. So we're glad to have that one as well. So I don't know why I didn't put in my notes where it was, but anyway. So at the end of the meal, when my wife had gone as a kid, she had always wanted to eat inside the castle, and that was never something they did. So as we walked out, she said, "This just healed some of my inner childhood trauma." So that was really special for her, and I'm not sure the others appreciated it, right? But I did think also the food was good in there. Right. So once again, a kind of a nice cool down in the middle of a hot day. So I think that was well done. And we were out of there by a little bit before 3. So we went to Small World from there. Yeah, that's about enough said about Small World. It was, I'm like, I found myself checking my phone the whole time, right? Like, okay, what's next, right? What characters? And I realized I'm doing all the stuff I normally do in line, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So in my mind, Small World does deserve all the shade it gets, whereas Figment does not. Small World deserves it all, right? So from there, our trip quickly turned back around. We did go over to meet Captain Jack. But by the time we get over to Adventureland, like the boys have fallen asleep in the stroller. So they're waiting. We're the first in line. Sloane's the only one awake, and I'm trying to wake the boys. I think Elizabeth was with me because Erin was off getting her Christmas ornaments there at the Christmas store, and I tried to. Jack was great. He, Someone called him Jack. He goes, Captain. I said, sorry, sir. And he was great with Sloane. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and I are trying to wake the boys to take a group photo. One of them kind of wakes up. The other one in the group photo is turned away from the camera. It is what it is, right? So after that, we're waiting for Aaron. I'm getting some Powerades to cool everybody down. And Aaron comes back, and now the boys have kind of both woken up. And Captain Jack is still meeting. So we get back in line, and the attendant is like, okay. Aaron was really good with her. She was like, yeah, that's fine. You guys can be my last family. So at that point, they had another interaction with the captain, and he was great with the boys. And he's like, Sloane, we've met, haven't we? So he was really, really good. And now, because Elizabeth is the character in the movies, he's like, Elizabeth. There are some great photos of him giving a little side eye to my teenage daughter, which I don't think I should be creeped out by, but we're going to say it's all in character, right? So it was fun, but it made all the kids happy. Like I said, they loved that movie. They were telling him that they'd gotten their swords. His character interactions were great. When the boys were initially passed out, I made some comment about probably too much rum, and he's like, it happens. So those moments are kind of priceless. So during all this, Weight Magic had moved my Tiana's lightning lane up to earlier in the afternoon. So that was good. We went over to Jungle Cruise. It's 40-minute standby. Our wait was only about 5 minutes. I don't know. I get the premise. Some of the jokes were fine. The microphones weren't great. So I felt like some of the jokes were missing because the audio just wasn't good enough. But for me, I'm glad I did it. Probably wouldn't do it every time that we go back. So is what it is. I made sure at this point to grab a Space Mountain lightning lane for Grant for later in the day since he loved it so much. Kids and I walked through Swiss Family Treehouse while others went to the bathroom. We then realized we hadn't done any photos of Sloane in front of the castle, and we knew we were about to go on Tiana's and she might get soaked, so we should probably get something of her. So we did that. And at the same time, Elizabeth and Aaron found a different past photographer to do their own photo shoot. We then walked over, and Sloane and the boys did a little photo shoot. And the boys had their swords from Cinderella's Royal Table. So now we've got a whole collection of swords from Disney World. So they're defending the princess with their swords. So that was kind of cute. Went up to Haunted Mansion. Kids loved it again. Once again, Lightning Lane's paying off big. Let's see. Went to Tiana's, 45-minute wait for standby. Ours was about 15. Sloane's in full princess attire. I said, do you want a poncho? Do you need anything? No, I'm fine. She was in row 1. She didn't get terribly soaked, right? I mean, maybe when you're little, it all goes over your head, right? The people in row 3 were laughing because they got probably more wet than normal because Brooks and Grant weren't blocking any of the water coming their way. But once again, I really enjoy that ride. It's great for a hot summer day. So at that point, Aaron went to pick up the ornaments. Kids and I went to go get a couple orders of spring rolls. I thought those were solid.
Was there a long line for that?
It was a little bit of a line, but not long. I would say it was certainly less than 10 minutes, right? And they were able to fill those orders pretty quick. So that line doesn't take a long time. So if you go and you see there's a line, it will move quickly, right? I mean, that's I would imagine part of knowing things, right? Like this line's going to move quickly. This line is not going to move quickly because not all lines are the same. But that one moved pretty well. So we went to Seven Dwarfs. It had been down earlier in the day, so I think a lot of lightning lanes had kind of stacked up. So that lightning lane queue was back out into that main thoroughfare. So the standby was 65 minutes. Our wait was 20 minutes. And distance-wise, it probably looked even longer. It's actually not that long, but a little bit concerned of how long is this actually going to take. So it wasn't terrible. From there, we went down to Buzz. We redeemed our anytime pass. Standby was 55. Our wait was 15. Once again, my wife had the best score. From there, we went right into Monsters, Inc., which I thought was kind of a cute show. I mean, the timing worked out. The location is right there. We got off one ride. We're able to get it in right when within 10 minutes the show is starting. So timing just worked perfectly on that. From there, we went to Space Mountain to tap in at 8:29. It was a 25-minute standby. Our wait was about 10 minutes. Grant, once again, was pumped to be able to go on it. Sloan, who hadn't gone the first night, went this time. She enjoyed it as well. So Brooks and Aaron did not go. So at this point, it's time to go to Tron. And so we get off Space Mountain. And the plan is Aaron and the girls are going to ride Tron first, and then I'm going to switch out, and they're going to use the boys' lightning magic bands, and I'm going to ride with them as well while Aaron watches the boys. Just as they're about to tap in, the ride goes down. But Aaron said, you can still hear the people screaming and going on the ride, so she's not exactly sure what's happening. And they're not saying anything, but they won't let anybody tap in. She's trying to ask, and the cast member's like, we don't know how long it's going to be. And she sees another cast member. And finally, after probably some polite but persistent asking, he said, let's just say someone didn't feel well. And Aaron goes, oh, so we're waiting because someone threw up. Okay, we'll wait, right? I'm just waiting for you to clean up something, right? And then we're going to go. And so she said a few minutes later, the music was back on, the line was moving again. But they were done at 9:45. That's a 45-minute
That's a long time.
And meanwhile, I had both boys, and they threw a fit because their mom walked away. And so I made them feel better we were going to go ride Tomorrowland Speedway again. But then it started raining. They did not want to wait in the rain. So we went into Cosmic Rays, got some food. Once everybody got a little food in their belly, everybody got happy. So we're waiting for them to finally get off. Now it starts pouring. So they're up at Tron. We're at Cosmic Rays. I've got the backpack with all the ponchos, or nachos, as Brooks decided to call them. So he goes, yeah, we're going to wear our nachos. Sure, whatever you say, bud. So now I've got to put all of us in our ponchos and walk up to give Aaron and the girls their ponchos. And so by the time I get up there and we get all our ponchos on, then it stops to rain. But at this point, she's like, well, you should go. I said, it's 10 o'clock. We still have to pack tonight. So let's go ahead and try and beat the crowd. Because of the rain, I think the fireworks show had been delayed. And so as a result, some people weren't waiting around. So we did not beat the crowd, even though it kind of started. It started as we were in the bus line. So at about 10:25. So some people had already left, others had stayed, but we definitely didn't beat the rush. We got back to the beach club at about 11. The kids fell asleep and the adults packed until about 1 o'clock, and it's a 19,500 step day.
Hot, rain.
Yep. But like all that being said, like we've had rain a couple days during the trip, but never where I thought like it's ruined anything, right?
I do think a lot of people see the forecast and it worries them, but a rain could be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It might be in the forecast, might be 5 minutes, might be 4 hours. You just never know.
Yeah, like I said, like at Hollywood Studios, keep your stroller covered if you see that it's coming. But it never rained on us, right? It was just around, and maybe it adjusts some of whether a line or rides up or down. But sometimes it's to your benefit. If you got a lightning lane, you can convert it to the anytime pass too. So.
Okay, so the next day was your last park day, Saturday, June 20th. But as you said, you had to pack because you were changing hotels.
Yeah, so we packed until about 1:15. We were up at 6:15. Or I was up at 6:15. Aaron was up at 6:45, and the kids were up at about 7:30. Kind of finished packing, left the room at 8:30, left the bags at bell check. Then I had to go back up to the room to grab the stroller and all the park bags. We ordered a minivan, and we got to Animal Kingdom about 9:15. So Certainly not rope drop there, but we kind of weren't in any rush, right? We'd heard it. Some people think it's a half-day park. Those people are not us, apparently, but I can understand why some say it. But, with all the different things we're trying to accomplish, there was certainly more there as well.
Well, I'm excited to hear about how you don't think it's a half-day park then.
Yeah. So we did photos outside. They kind of had a photo thing that was with the family madrigal. So we took our photo there. Then Sloan wanted to meet Chip and Dale. So she went, after we'd all checked in, she then went back out the park. After I checked in, I had to go back out the park because Aaron realized I had all the autograph books. So I had to then go through security a separate time. But Chip and Dale were meeting outside the park. So the boys, Elizabeth and I, we went into the park. We met Rafiki and took photos with him. I then mobile ordered Satuli Canteen and we headed to Pandora. Sloan and Aaron were on their way to meet us. They met Pocahontas, did a little meet and greet with her. So we then finally are eating in the park. And I'm like, we got to get to Bluey, right? That was high priority. And I'm like, I've heard, even though people were still saying you got to allow a decent amount of time to go to Bluey. That actually wasn't our experience. So hopefully that continues and this can be useful for others who are looking at meeting Bluey. So we headed to Africa. We were able to get pretty much, the train was virtually a walk-on. So it pulled out of the station at about 10:30. We were in line for Bluey by 10:41. We had to wait through like half a show, but then we were in the next show. So our show started at 10:53. We were done at, I think it's about 15 minutes or so. We were back in Africa by 11:28.
I'm so glad to hear you say this.
Yes, like the whole thing from when we left to when we got back to Africa was 1 hour.
That was my experience as well. And I was really confused seeing all the dialogue online about the length because I was like, what am I missing? It takes about an hour.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we passed some people getting off the train that other people on our train might have had to wait one more show. So it might have been an hour 15, but it was not in the 2.5 hour things that you were seeing that was out there. I think at max hour 15, maybe hour 30. Now we didn't do the jumping kangaroo thing or anything else out there. We didn't go check out the vet. But if you just want to go see Bluey, it is not, you're not spending your whole morning there. And so I'm hoping that's encouraging to other parents who are listening and thinking about how they're going to plan around it. And like I said, we didn't rope drop it either, right?
No, you were at 10:30. I was on the 8 o'clock train, the first one of the day. And so I thought maybe I got good luck, but I cannot imagine it taking that long. You were a little bit later.
A little bit later, and maybe in the afternoon it is. But I think also most families with young kids are going to try and do it sometime in the morning. So that was very encouraging. Now I'd warn the kids, this is not a meet and greet, right? Like he's not going to pose and take a photo. He's going to be playing, and they were like, oh, okay. I don't know if they understood what I meant, right? Because when it was done, Sloan was in tears because we were over in the side that was Bluey most of the time. And she goes, Bingo's my favorite. I said, well, then you got to go over and play with Bingo. So there was a life lesson to be shared about being assertive. That was not the time to have that lesson. We'll talk about that at a later moment with her, right? But fortunately, they've done the Camp Stores Bluey show before last summer or last winter. They got to meet Bluey and Bingo. They have a nice posed photo with them that exists somewhere in our house. So these children are not wanting for anything. So, but yeah, all in all, a good experience. But at this point, it's 11:28, and I'm like, we have Tusker House at 1:25, and all my lightning lanes were in the morning, and I'm not going to get to them all. So I actually pushed Navi and Zootopia to later in the afternoon. But got off the train, went right in line to Safari, tapped in at 11:41. Standby was 40 minutes, and our wait was 6 minutes, right? And Brooks really wanted to see a cheetah, and I go, we're just setting up for another disappointment, right? Don't just be happy with whatever animals you see. When we drove by the cheetah pen, there was one kind of in the distance, and Brooks said he saw it. No clue if he saw it or not, but he said he did. So we're happy with it. And there were no tears. We were able to get really up close with giraffes, which I thought was really cool. I understand, like, they can't guarantee what animals are going to be out. I would have liked them to say, like, hey, over in this area is where we sometimes see the lions. Like, they didn't say anything of that. I was kind of like, oh, I would have liked to known where generally things are. I understand, like, they're live animals. They're going to do what they want.
I think I saw a cheetah on the train out to Bluey. Did you see that?
So I saw where that would have been, and the attendant or the cast member there did say, because Brooks had said, I want to see cheetahs, and someone heard him say that, and they said, we're going to go by the cheetah house. Sometimes you can see them there.
Okay.
So they were not out back, but they actually were in the grass on the front, but it's kind of back under a tree. I could kind of see it. Sometimes they can't see what's 15 feet in front of them. So that's the only reason I'm debating whether or not he actually saw it. But
He thinks he did.
he thinks he did, which is great, right? It's better than the alternative. So we were off safari at 12:15. Now we have to get down to Pandora, and we've got to do 2 rides on Flight of Passage and then get back up to Africa by 1:25. So we're hustling down to Flight of Passage, and it starts to rain just a little bit. We get there at 12:26. Aaron and the girls go first. Once again, the boys are in tears because mom left them. So I'm like, I got to find something, and it's raining now, and I don't want to take the time to put on a poncho or anything. So I just throw on my hat and push them around, and it's nice cooling rain, and it feels nice. I decided to bribe them with ice cream, and we find a fruit bar for Grant and a Mickey bar for Brooks. Not a smart move on my part, because now I put the cover and the rain cover on the stroller, push them back to Pandora. And so the ice cream cart's like across from Nomad Lounge. So I push them back to Pandora. I check on him. Brooks is like covered and he got chocolate all over the place, all over his shirt, all over his shorts. So I'm like, well, hurry up and finish, and then we're going to go to the bathroom and change you. And so we did that. He changed from one Bluey shirt into a different Bluey shirt, and he was good to go. The girls were off pretty quick, right? From the entrance to on the ride in 12 minutes. That was not the experience on the second time around. So
On Flight of Passage or not?
On Flight of Passage, they were. I think if everything, if my numbers are correct, I thought that they got on pretty quickly, because we tapped in the second time at 12:55, and like I talked about earlier, my time was from 10:05, so meaning to 1:05. So I had only about
Close.
10 minutes to check in, which I didn't even really realize at the time. But so we tapped in at 12:55. It's a 75-minute standby, and during that wait, I remembered I hadn't grabbed a lightning lane after safari, so I grabbed Everest. We didn't get to the second pre-show room until about 30 minutes later. And in that first pre-show room, they like had to decontaminate us twice and a whole bunch of like, now move. So in talking to Elizabeth, she said they didn't do any of that stuff.
So she just went through the pre-shows?
She said they barely talked in that first pre-show. So I don't know.
With all the pre-shows on the ride, it would be like a 30-minute experience. So I feel like they missed some stuff along the way, and then you got a double dose.
I got a double dose, and they missed some stuff, right?
Yeah, that's weird.
And so we were in that hallway, and now I'm starting to worry about time. I know we've got a 1:25 Tusker House reservation. I'm like, we got to get back up there, and even if Aaron's up there, they won't really accept us till we're all there. And when Grant's getting a little anxious waiting in line, and then Grant did not like it when that thing comes up against your back, right? All of a sudden now he's a little bit in tears. It was the only ride where he was on tears during the ride. I'm like, just hold on, buddy. So I'm trying to keep him kind of calm and also stressed about time. And so I didn't really get fully immersed in the ride. That's one of those I'd like to have a do-over that is stress-free as opposed to everything that was happening. But he ended up doing fine on the ride. But Erin, even for she didn't like Star Tours, but she did not have an issue with this one. Now, she said the air in the face, she thought helped her quite a bit here as well.
That's good. Sometimes that one gets people for sure.
Yeah. So we ended up hustling up to Tusker House, and we really enjoyed that meal. Food was good. Character interactions were good. Everyone came over in a very reasonable amount of time. We'd seen all the characters within 50 minutes. This was actually on our last day of day 6 or 7 of our trip, was our first interaction with Mickey. And so he was the only autograph that we needed from the group, but everybody there was a lot of fun. Like I said, the food was really good. And there's also, there's spicy meatballs for parents and all sorts of African inspired food, but then there's plenty of options for picky kid eaters as well. So this one I would do again. This one was highly recommended. So from there, we had to have a talk about what we wanted to do with the rest of the day, because it's 2:30 and we realized we're not going to get to everything, right? So we asked Sloan, what are your priorities? And it was Nick and Judy, meeting Moana, and Zootopia, which meant that the Lion King show, we'll maybe try to get to it next time. But that was one that we thought we would want to do. It just didn't happen. So we did the Nick and Judy line. We got in line at 3. They meet for about 15 minutes and then take a 5-minute break. Then they come back and meet for 15 minutes. So we were the last group in their second round of meeting, which fortunately allowed us to then get over to Moana before she stopped meeting at 3:45. And then we walked pretty much right on to Zootopia there. So we got a lot done between about 3 and 4, but that was kind of a hustle, keep on checking the watch. But from there, we headed to Asia. We weren't planning to do the Nemo show because we had kind of said, oh, let's do Lion King instead of Nemo. But when you buy something and the timing works out, we popped in there and thought that was pretty cute. And it was a chance to get once again out of the heat, although this day was not terribly warm. So, or maybe we were able, because I'd heard Animal Kingdom can be one of the hottest of the parks, but for us, it didn't necessarily prove to be the case. So
That's good. It makes it more fun that way.
it certainly does, right? It was kind of overcast, right? And with maybe light sprinkles on and off, but not terrible, not to where it's ruining anything. So we go over to, at this point, I think I've grabbed a Cali River Rapids, but it went down, so that got converted to an anytime. But we did have our Everest Lightning Lane, which did not go down. So we rode Everest. The first time was me, Grant, Sloan, and Elizabeth. And Sloan made the mistake of telling Grant that it goes backwards and there's a Yeti. And he starts saying, it goes backwards. Dad, does it go backwards? I'm like, Grant, I don't know. I've never been on this ride. Sloan said it goes backwards. I go, I don't know. She hasn't been on this ride. I don't know. Dad, does it go backwards? Sloan said it went backwards. I go, Sloan, you stop talking to your brother right now, right? So we get him. I go, Grant, we get up closer. I'm like, see, they're going forwards, right? You can do this. So we got on the ride. Everyone enjoyed it. Grant decided it was a one and done for him.
Because it only takes about 2 minutes to figure out it goes backwards.
Yeah. We kind of do get up, and I'm like, Grant, what do you know? It looks like it does go backwards. All right, hold on. But he didn't scream. He didn't scream at all. Like, I mean, the kids are really good about screaming and having fun on the roller coaster, but he wasn't in tears, and he didn't get off getting mad at me for it going backwards. He just, he didn't care. He didn't care that Frozen went backwards, to the point where I had forgotten until you said that it goes backwards, right? So then Aaron went with Sloan and Elizabeth, and then we went a third time because we had the anytime ones. So, in about an hour span, we rode the ride 3 times. Now we are down to 2 anytime, and Sloan's like, I want to go again. I'm like, you've gone 3 times. You're fine. All right, let's move on. So at this point, I check again. Collie's back up. So we do grab that. It's almost 6 o'clock. Elizabeth wants the ice cream chocolate chip cookie dough treat. So she decides that she's going to go off and do that on her own. I said, you got to take Brooks, who's currently sleeping in the stroller. The other 4 of us are going to go on the rapids. We went on that, and it was a short wait, either with or without the lightning lane, regardless. We got soaked. Sloan and Grant wanted to end up changing their shorts and shirt afterwards, but I think once again, this is the old school water ride, right? Of the amusement parks of getting just drenched and everything. And then I feel like they just take cheap shots at you. If the one plunge doesn't get you, then they've got all the other things shooting at you just to make sure you really get wet. But at the end of the day, it was fine or whatever. So, but I do understand why some people are like, I don't need to do that again either. So from there, we had to meet back up at Pandora for our last ride was Navi River. Before we did that, I wanted to make sure that knowing that the food at Beach Club was not going to be something our family would want, I mobile ordered Satuli Canteen, got like a 6:45 to 6:55 check-in window. So we got on Navi about 6:40. Now, I've never seen Avatar. Elizabeth had, so I think she enjoyed it more. Having never seen it and not knowing who any of these characters were, it was giving me some Small World vibes of just like, hey, this ride's kind of whatever, right?
You don't like a slow boat ride.
I don't like a slow boat ride that I don't know. Like, I liked Pirates. Now, Pirates had that drop that I was like, should they have had a bar across us at any point? Like, it was almost as big as Frozen's drop. But I mean, I can appreciate all the colors, all the money that went into everything there, but not knowing who any of these people are, it just like, it doesn't do anything for me. So, so we got off, we did a family photo pass in front of Pandora, ate our mobile order at Satuli, and about 7:20 decided to head out of the park since it closed at 7.
So that was a 10 or 11 hour day.
It was a 10 and a quarter hour day.
You're right. It wasn't a half day park for you.
No.
And you didn't even, it sounds like, do the like animal trails and that kind of stuff, because there's a little bit more left even.
Yeah.
And Dino Land's not open anymore. They're like, there's a whole lane. So someday that could be a even longer day for you. But
yeah, but once again, it's like, okay, if you probably don't do that sit down meal, maybe if we got in there for rope drop and you can move more efficiently without lightning lanes, we were still able to save time even with the multi-pass. So it was worth it for us. I understand why some people don't do it there as well. And then you throw in some of the characters. If you're going for the ride, you're probably not going for Bluey.
there's only 4 rides part of Lightning Lane Multi-Pass right now. So
Yeah.
that's not a lot. But yeah, you did a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the logistics of how you ended up at your hotel for this night.
So we ended up going to Beach Club. And from there, we had the same private car service. So we got back to Beach Club about 8:15. Originally, the plan was, we won't spend a whole day. Then we'll go swimming. Then we'll go. But they picked us up at 9:00, took us back to the same hotel, and we were. Let's see, that was probably our earliest night of the trip, right? We were in our new room by 9:30, lights off at 10:30, and just a 18,500 step day. So.
All right. And the next day was departure day, Sunday, June 21st, but real early pickup.
Yeah, up at 5:15. They picked us up at 6. We were there by 6:30, plenty of time for a 9:00 flight. We were through security at 7:10. I don't recommend MCO if you're looking for a good place for Father's Day brunch. That's not, Terminal B is not the place I would go there, but otherwise. It was an uneventful trip until we landed, and Grant, who had handled all the rides like a champ, he got sick as we landed, and then Sloan got sick on the end of the car ride home. So that was a little bit of a whammy to the end of the trip, but nothing that impacted our happiness during our time on property. So I forgot to mention on Saturday as we were leaving Animal Kingdom, we saw a rainbow off in the distance, and we thought that was a really cool omen to end that trip. But landed back in Detroit about 11:30, and we were back at home a little bit before 2:00 for a afternoon of naps and laundry. So,
There's something about the Florida sunsets and rainbows.
Yeah.
Like they're extra pretty down there.
Yeah.
All right. So have some questions for you.
Yes.
All right. So this is your first trip.
Yep.
And I think I might know some of these answers, but I'm curious about your favorites or things that you would do again. So, staying at SpringHill Suites, would you stay there again?
I would not probably, although I will say, so trying to find a place that will accommodate six is not as easy, right? I looked into the Westin, I looked into some other options. I would probably pay a little bit more to maybe find a hotel that was maybe more highly recommended. So,
Beach Club?
Beach Club, we would absolutely stay there again. Yeah. And like I said, that's even despite some of the food and the fact we would have loved to enjoy the resort a little bit more than we did. But proximity, you can walk to two parks. Liked the vibe a lot. Yeah, we would definitely stay there again.
Lightning lanes for all the parks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I did a little bit of numbers and I figured we saved 845 minutes with our lightning lanes. That's 14 hours. That's a full park day or more than a park day for some, but that's like, so it's not only the time you're saving, it's the mental strain, it's especially some of those queues which are in the heat. We would absolutely do it. Now, our lightning lane cost was, let's see, almost $1,700, right? I don't know if I would do 2 days of Tron single. Like if we had the same number of days at each park, I don't know if I'd do 2 days of Tron single pass, and I don't know if I'd do 2 days of Seven Dwarfs single pass. I probably wouldn't do that.
It's just a really crazy amount. And I will say it's your first time playing a trip, but I've been doing this for a long time and it's just so hard to reconcile it because they used to be free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And $1,700 extra is a lot of money, especially when you have a family of six.
Yeah.
Okay, how about, speaking of lightning lanes, how about Standby Skipper?
I would use both of them. Like I said, I end up using Weight Magic more, but for 45 minutes, and if it can grab you, if we would have traded things out a little bit different on that Wednesday, it was the only way we would have been able to do Jungle Cruise or one of the other ones. So the ability for it to, I'd like to use it better than I did, but even if it's willing to help me just a little bit, I think that was worthwhile.
The Disney dining plan. I know that it was free for 3 out of the 6 of you, but would you use the dining plan again?
That one I'm not as sure of, right? If I had to pay for everyone, I'm not sure I would have because I'm not sure that next time we would do as many character meals. And it was the number of character meals that I think really made the math work and the fact that it was 3 for free. But it does take up time, right? So it's not just, and I think now knowing, okay, not all quick service are obviously created equal, right? So if you go to Regal Eagle, you're able to eat inside, right? Like, so where are the places where you can have a good sit down quick service that doesn't require you to eat on top of a trash can somewhere, right? And so knowing that and having that info for round 2, I think that one would be a hard sell again, especially if I had to pay for everybody, because there's no way our kids were getting their money's worth on these meals. Now, who knows how old the kids will be the next time we go? Maybe they'll be hungrier, but then at some point Disney's going to start telling me they're adults, and at 10
They
or 11.
become adults very young.
Yeah.
What about the car service that you used? Away we go.
Yes, we would absolutely use it, especially like the ease of pickup at the airport was phenomenal, and we ended up.
I love that they have the stroller.
That was also like, that was one of the things in listening to other trip reports was stressing me out of like, when are we going to do the stroller, right? I'm like, do we have to leave our beach or our Blizzard Beach day, our water park day to go get the stroller? I don't want to do that. And I'm like, oh, wait, I can do it. And they also had, we were going to order groceries. We ended up not doing that, but away we go. I could buy like a whole case, a 40 bottle case of water. And so we just kept that in the beverage cooler. So able to fill up the water bottles every morning. That was one of my jobs. Wake up, put all the water bottles, put all the electrolytes and everything, and get ready for the day. So.
And then, like, you did a lot of character meals. So what was your favorite?
My favorite character meal was might have been the first one. 1900 Park Fair was really good. Um, it's not often that you get a princess meal outside the parks, if I'm correct, right? So I thought that was really good. Tusker House was also really good, and like I'm not complaining about Cinderella's Royal Table either. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Lots of you have a great test sample to choose from here.
yes, yep,
You did a lot of them.
yep.
Okay, and did you guys have an overall favorite park?
I think Hollywood Studios. I think between proximity of rides and areas to each other, number of characters, number of rides, just a ton of different things that work to make it our favorite.
And it's going to get better because
Yeah,
they're adding more stuff. So
yeah,
that's nice.
yeah,
All right, and you have mentioned next time a few times.
yeah. No one knows when next time is, right? Like, in kind of putting together, this was I mean, we went all out on this, right? Like, I put together, I work in stats for my job, and so I did a bunch of spreadsheets after the fact. And I mean, we had 53 rides, 60 character interactions, 30 character autographs, 7 shows. We did 60 hours of sleep, 65 hours in the park, and 135,000 steps over the 7 days, right? And we do it all again, right? There's nothing I regret, and yet the cost ended up north of 21,000, right? And so next time will be a much different trip. And so I would at least want to wait. You're walking around the park and you see, oh, Cars Land is coming, and Monsters Inc.
Exactly.
And all the stuff coming to Animal Kingdom. So I don't envision that we will go back before those things open up. And it is easier for my wife and I. We have deluxe taste on more moderate, realistic budget. So it's easier for us to skip something and not do it than to do it on the cheap, right? So like we didn't take a vacation last summer. We've been saving for this for a couple of years, and we were like, hey, grandparents for Christmas, don't give our kids gifts. We don't need more stuff in our house, right? Help us out with this. And they were very generous there. And so we definitely kind of went all out. But
You did.
I next trip, I don't know.
You don't know. My experience is that people will often do, like for their first trip, will go all out. A lot of people think it's their one and done, or
Yep.
there's everything to experience. There's a lot included. And then future trips become about new things only,
Yep.
or special events that you haven't done. For instance, like a Christmas party
Yes.
or an Epcot festival. So that's why these first timer trip reports are so interesting.
Yeah.
Because when you've been a bunch of times, they don't often look like this, but this is just sort of a classic way to do it. And
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
it's been great.
Yeah, I will say, like, I think I said in the pre-trip that I had never imagined that I would be the one who's diving all in to Disney planning. And then my wife was supportive of me doing it. It was her idea to go. We only went because she was really pushing that we needed to take the kids at this age, and it was all magical. But she was like, Matt, you're a little obsessed, right? And it took her about, I don't know, half a day at Epcot to be like, oh, I get this now. And now
Yeah.
she's like, oh yeah, we're coming back. But it is kind of like, okay, are we going to go back for, Christmas or whatever?
Yes.
And at one point I said, well, maybe you and I could go sometime. And this before the trip. And she goes, we're not doing that. Come on, we're going to go somewhere else. And now she's like, I could see how we would like that, and that there's stuff for us.
It's so fun. And you get to do different things. And yeah, it's so great. But
And now she's saying, well, how about a cruise? I'm like, well, then I'd have to do a whole bunch of other research. So
it's never ending. I've been doing this 21 years and I feel like I'm still learning. I've been on 11 cruises and I still feel like I'm learning. So it's never ending. But if it's a hobby, you're going to have to fill that time you've been spending on this trip somehow.
I know she wants me to, she goes, well, you should just be a Disney travel agent. You're great at this. You could do this for stuff. I go, I like planning my trips. Because I know that I'll have the payoff and my family will have the payoff and stuff. So,
Yes, TA is a whole different world, but
yes,
yeah,
it is.
I think a lot of people are drawn to it because it's like, how am I going to use this information I've learned?
Yeah.
So anyway, is there anything about your trip that we haven't talked about?
No, like you said, it's funny. We did a ton, and yet every park, I probably had a list of 4 or 5 things that I still wanted to do that we couldn't get to. Even in Magic Kingdom, we didn't do the People Mover, Carousel Progress, Fill Our Magic, Hall of Presidents. We didn't do any parades, right? And we were there 2 days, right? So there is still a reason.
It's a testament to how big these parks are.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say thank you for all the work that you and your team do. I couldn't have. The number of people who kept on coming up, oh, Matt, it's your first time. Well, you should do this and this. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? Or even in the last couple of days at work, people saying, oh, you should have let me know. I would have, you needed to do this. Oh, I did that. I did that. Like, what? Well, you did this.
Everybody has an opinion.
Everyone's got an opinion, but like it was, I felt as prepared for a first timer as I could be, and it was amazing. And like I said, I don't regret any of it. We got out of it exactly what we wanted. And someday, whether the boys remember it or not, they'll have all the photos in the photo books and everything. And it's really special. And I hope someday they get to do it with their families. So
That would be super sweet. Well, you put the work in and it paid off. So good job. And I'm glad that all the information was helpful. And also, you took the time to take notes so that you could share it with us. So
that's right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed those conversations. I loved it so much. Very satisfying to know that somebody could learn so much and pull off such a good trip. He did briefly mention what his overall total was for the trip, but we kept talking in the after chat on Patreon, and I asked him to break it down in a little bit more detail so that we could see how we got there to that overall number. So that is up. I also wanted to ask him about his job. He has kind of an interesting job in related to sports. He mentioned his job related to stats, but it's also sports related, and about their possible upcoming cruise. And so you can see what he has to say about that. That is up now on Patreon in video and audio form. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 520. Until next time, I will see you on the site.